Hey everyone, welcome back to the Earthathon. We are here. We are excited about our next hour of guests. Our Earth operators are ready to join me, and it's going to be a great time. We are in the second half where we're of the Earthathon. It's been a long day. I have been here with you, y'all, standing here, okay, with my puffy sleeves, giving you good Oprah energy for us to really move on this issue in our community. I am so excited about my next group of volunteers and Earth operators. So let me just get to it. First of all, we have the incomparable Jennie Joseph. Jennie Joseph is a British trained midwife who fights to ensure every person has their healthiest possible pregnancy. She created the JJ Way, and that's a registered trademark, by the way, as an evidence based maternity care model, delivering readily accessible, patient centered, culturally congruent care to women in areas that she terms as maternal toxic zone. We'll be talking about that. And she's the executive director of her own nonprofit, Common Sense Childbirth. We heard Jennie mention in the video with Every Mother Counts and Christy Turlington Burns. She is just a force in our field, and I'm so grateful for her. And then we also have, it's like midwife time. We also have Nicole Deggins, who is known as Sister Midwife on social media and was recently named by Essence Magazine as the midwife. I want to get it right. What did Essence say? Essence said she was the midwife shifting the narrative, right? She is a CNM, MSN, MPH, and one of the country's leading birth advocacy experts. And she is the founder and CEO of Sister Midwife Productions. I'm so excited that Nicole is here. It's like a full house. Oh, yay! I'm getting excited. Okay, and we have Nana and Marcia, who are the co-founders of Fourth Phase, which is really all about elevating this fourth phase after of postpartum care. They created the Aftercare gift box. They are two amazing people, and they support new moms globally who have given birth vaginally or surgically with a curated fourth phase after box of certified organic, cruelty-free, non-toxic, sustainably sourced products. It is all about understanding that postpartum period also deserves our attention and our care. I'm so excited they are joining me here today. Thank you so much. They are also my former Essence sisters, so we always love to kiki about that. And and Rachel's joining us today. Oh my goodness. Right now we have Rachel Nix, who is known on Instagram as the Birth Queen. Rachel was born and raised in Oakland. She's a mother of two beautiful sons, lives in Harlem. She's an actor and graduate of the Juilliard School, and she's the founding Mirror instructor, doula, and lactation counselor. She founded Birth Queen to combat the Black maternal health crisis, and I'm so excited that we have so many people here with us. They look at my full screen. This is giving me all kinds of beautiful vibes. Thank you so much, everyone, for showing up for this day for Earth. I'm so grateful. How's everybody doing?
Amazing. Thanks for having us.
Yes. This is so exciting. I mean, we are going to be having a good chat. First, we got to remind people why we are here. Okay, please, everyone, if you're watching, if you're online, Jennie, Nicole, Fourth Phase, Rachel, tell your followers you are live on the Earthathon. Call us at 855-450-4784, 855-450-IRTH. We are here to capture your experiences. We only have strength in numbers. And so we are here making a change and really saying, share with us as we build this digital platform. We're working hard on the back end to really turn our collective experiences into a tool for change. We just launched our first hospital pilot in Detroit, where Earth data being collected is now being used to help inform what's going on in the hospital systems, so we can really start holding these folks accountable to treating us with dignity and with respect. I shared earlier that we got a call from a sister who unfortunately spent the day at a meeting for a maternal mortality review board for her state. And she was just so distraught, Nicole, and just in tears about what she was hearing. And I was saying that, maternal mortality review boards are so important, but we can't keep trying to solve this problem from the grave, right? It's not that only when we died does it matter and it's worth analysis. Right? We say we need to learn from the living, and we want to use our experiences while we are still alive. Thank you very much, and use that to also inform the care that we deserve and, quite frankly, need to demand as we move this forward. So, thank you so much for showing up for Earth. I'm excited. So, tell me, let's start with you, Jennie. What brings you to the Earthathon?
Because I have mad respect and just pride and joy in what you are doing, how you are standing, how you are leading. Kim, I am beyond. I'm so moved by what is happening. Look what's going on. And I know that your years of hard work, dedication, just pushing through. I am right here, right behind you, because I want to support any and everything you do, because it's always brilliant and it's always effective. And thank you.
Jennie, you are making me cry because you and I go way back, and you know how long we have been in the fight. And so I really appreciate that. Okay, this day is getting to me. I'm gonna need a break. But I'm such a fan, Jennie. I mean, I know even just watching you build Common Sense Childbirth, the Midwifery Center in Florida, when I came to look, I mean, you know, it's been a journey. And so I'm so grateful for you, for who you are to the space and to this field. So I'm super excited about that. And then Nicole, Sister Midwife, how are you today? You're a little bit on mute. I need y'all to save me from myself and talk.
Help me.
There you go. There you go.
So, I mean, I guess I could just reiterate what Jennie said. Like, first of all, I'm like, oh my God, I'm fangirling all the time whenever I'm on these things. But yeah, I'm like, I know your work, I know your passion, and I know your integrity. And so when I received the call to action, I was like, all day I'm about this, because the Earth app is so necessary. It is in alignment with the work that I am doing here in Louisiana. And you just mentioned the Maternal Mortality Review Board. I actually just resigned from our maternal mortality review. I sat on it for 2 years, and the last couple of calls were so heavy and so deep for me. And I just was like, I can't do it anymore, because I feel the stories so personally and so deeply. And I actually resigned, which part of me feels, I don't want to use the word guilty, but for lack of a better term, guilty, because I know that I showed up to represent the voices of those families differently than some of the other people who are on the committee. But I also had to protect my personal space and health and spiritual self, you know, and I couldn't do it anymore. So anyway, I am excited about the Earth app, because yes, we need to use the voices and the stories of the living to make sure that we have no more deaths. So thank you for creating that Earth app.
Thank you. Thank you for all of you all have been on this journey. When it was like an idea in my head or a scribble or something, I was taken to a hackathon or something. So I'm grateful for you guys. And I have Marcia and Nana with us from Fourth Phase. I'm just excited. Thank you so much, Queens, for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Tell us about your work and what brings you to, what on earth are you doing here today?
Well, of course, where else would we be? We are super excited. Both Marcia and I are co-founders of Fourth Phase. And as you know, we've done this together. Fourth Phase is social impact maternal wellness company. And I think the space in which we are in terms of advocating and amplifying the fourth trimester specifically, and allowing women to kind of understand what that time period is. There's no other place that we would be but here, because what has happened in their prenatal care, from their delivery to their postpartum care, all of that kind of makes a mother's journey in her experience. And so we just want to be here to support. And I mean, I just had a conversation with someone else that, recently had a bad experience. And I was like, you don't know about the Earth app, do you? And she was like, what? I was like, and I sent her the app, and I was like, make sure you put in your review, because she had a bad experience. She felt neglected. And I was like, you need to make sure, outside of just writing your emails and doing all of that, make sure you go onto this Earth app and put in your review, so that people can be held accountable. So that's what we're here for. We're here to hear our voices and hear our stories.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, it's like, we know these things are happening and they're going to dismiss what happened to that sister. They dismiss what happened to me. They'll dismiss what happened to us. But if we put all those experiences together and now we have collective power, so we can go, we have hundreds, thousands of reviews. You have to pay attention. And so that's really what I'm excited about around Earth, the ways that we can use our collective power as Black and brown women and birthing people. Thank you, Birth Queen. Rachel Nix is with us, who I literally just met on Instagram the other, 2 days ago, and showed up for us today. Thank you so much, Rachel. Tell us a little bit more about Birth Queen and what on earth are you doing here today?
I am here for this queendom. It's so beautiful that we all rallied together. And to kind of piggyback off of what Nicole said is I'm just over this narrative of lack that has been continuously passed on to us. We don't come from that. So I birthed Birth Queen when my second son was 6 months old, and decided to just take a leap of faith. And I know that I'm walking in my purpose. And for me, Birth Queen is just going to be a vessel to create awareness about us and our value, and make sure that we're provided with education and resources and support to not only survive but thrive, but also to raise funds to, support Jennie's work and make sure that we're training more Black birth workers to support our queens. And so, ultimately baseline, raise money, education and support, but big objective also is to provide each mother I serve with a gold package of love. Because I think too, as Black people, it's like, we just need the basics. And I'm kind of over that survival basic life. Like, I'm here for the big shoulders, the diamonds, the jewels, because that's what we come from. So I want all the nipple butter, belly oil. I need a maternity photo shoot for every Black queen. I need a spa treatment for every Black queen. Like, I'm over the lack. I'm done.
You know what? I love what you're saying. First of all,
well, I'm trying. It happened literally 3 months ago, but I'm telling you guys, God is working. The fact that I was literally on a call last week with Christy and Jennie's on this, and we're talking, and the dots are just and the fact that we were sold that we don't support each other as Black queens is such trash that I love that literally we're DMing and I'm half sleep breastfeeding, lazy breastfeeding. I got you, sis. We got each other. And so I think the last thing I'll say is I am here for all this, but trust and believe in my fundraising. I am here for the white men paying to end this crisis because they created it. So I would love to connect with other women and other Black women. But y'all need to do the work to undo, because you did.
Exactly. I hear you on that. We're going to connect on that, going forward as well, because I think that's a word. That is a word, sis, and we need to kind of be clear about that, about whose shoulders this burden is falling on, and who really needs to help pick up some of the slack. It's so interesting that we're talking about this luxuriating of birth. I think that's important, because one of the things that was really interesting that we found when we were developing Earth, before we even got to the app, when we were still in survey, still on the ground testing, was a real disconnect between what people wrote and what they gave as a rating. So we would see someone write in the comments that a nurse yelled at me, I was threatened, and then they would give a 4. And we were like, wow. And we saw this over and over, this disconnect between what is a good maternity experience. And so many people, too many people in the Earth app, when we asked, what's the best thing that happened to you, was my baby is alive. I'm alive, right? And so in this terrible Black maternal narrative, death narrative, it's like survival has become the goal. That's people are just happy to survive.
They just want to get out. I just want to get out the hospital with a baby. And if I've done that, everything that's happened to me behind me is behind me. And they don't realize that when you get home, your memory starts to trigger through all the things that you went through. And that's what affects how you go into this motherhood journey, into this parenting, into your next doctor's appointment. All of those things that you thought you put behind because I made it out alive. It's not really true. You made it out alive, but scarred. And the Earth app allows you to let you know you cut me, and I don't like getting cut.
I like good cut. I'm about to share that with my community. And also, this is what we're doing about the maternal mortality review boards. It's like you made it out, and if you didn't, that's when they're going to analyze. And we're like, no. We need to be learning. Anything else in that spectrum is not worthy of consideration. The cuts, the harm, the disrespect, that's just deal with it. But if you die, we analyze it. Everything else, no. And so I appreciate, you saying, Rachel, like, no, we deserve the luxuriousness of and the beauty of pregnancy and the postpartum period. Really appreciate what Fourth Phase is doing with their boxes. Like, no, you deserve to take care of yourself, and you need some good products, not just the Palmer's cocoa butter, which has been our fix all. I had it, y'all. I didn't know.
I mean, the whole point, just to even what Rachel is saying, is like, we deserve the sanctity and the sacredness of birth, right? And to preserve that it's a sacred act that is actually going on, and that deserves the highest level of appreciation, the highest level of adoration, and the highest level of care, right? You are literally being the vessel that's bridging, an other world into this 3-dimensional world. That is, there's nothing that compares to that. Nothing.
And the this is like me putting my like trainer hat on, because I specialize in pre and postnatal fitness and the pelvic floor and all that. But like, we are not talking about, we're not talking about the mental, the emotional, physical,
the spiritual, any of that. Right.
Any of it. The relationship, this like gender roles that still, all these men think they woke, and my husband's still like, I don't know.
Yeah, you're not woke. You woke, but you're not woke.
It's really deep to me, Kimberly, that you mentioned that people would give this negative narrative and then give a 4-star. That makes sense. I see that all the time. I will tell people all the time, like, when you ask for a referral on your physician, if somebody says, they were okay, go somewhere else. Because when I ask you, how was your obstetrical provider? You should be, my OB was everything. And if that is not the answer, find another provider. But we have moved into this notion that okay is enough, when in fact, we deserve extraordinary and excellence. But we are so used to just the status quo and mediocrity becomes the norm, and we accept that and then give it a 4-star. That's deep to me and saddening.
Right.
And I want people to know, like, no, you deserve extraordinary. You deserve extraordinary. Yeah.
Exactly. And so we literally like change the language. Like, we have to say in the earth, like, 1 means this and 5 means this.
Help them know.
Let them know, right? Like, no, if you were yelled at, that's not a 4. Definitely not, And not even close. But I think there is this re-education of what we deserve in this space, and that we're countering a negative narrative that was created that first they spent the first half of this problematizing Black women. It was our fault. We didn't get prenatal care. We're overweight. We're hypertensive. Now they made us feel lucky to come out alive, and we haven't even had the space to even say, no, we actually need to demand a higher standard of care, one that is respectful, one that is rooted in what we consider to be respectful, not your definition of respect. And this is really what we're trying to build as a knowledge base with the Earth app as well. Like, what does respectful and dignified care look like for us, not based on their textbooks, but on our lived experience, right? And so how do we do that? Kind of starting by sharing our experiences together. I'm excited.
I think too, there needs to be an education about where obstetrics came from. I'm gonna put it in this language. My dad is 70 years old, okay? And when he learned about all this, his daughter does a few things. I got a few jobs. But he was like, this he actually had a vision about. He said, I'm with you, I support you. He said, but I do not understand. He said, I don't know about all the doula and all that. I get it a little bit. He said, but Black women had the babies, birthed the babies, fed the babies, took care of the babies. So how are we dying? Like,
how are we dying from
this simple 70-year-old Black man explanation. He said, this just don't add up to me. And so what people have to understand is, absolutely, we did it. It came from Africa. They cut it off, and that's when we start dying. They didn't adopt our wisdom.
Yeah.
That's right.
Midwifery training is not inclusive of us anymore. The fact that Alabama doesn't have like Black midwives and like we were the only, like anybody having a baby was at
In
our
Alabama was gonna have a baby with a Black woman.
Black woman, right?
You were
So
going.
it's
The Black
like-
woman was gonna support you through that process.
Black, or if you was a Black or white woman pregnant.
no,
Right.
I'm saying everybody's baby came
Yeah.
into our hands at our breast. So it's like we have to really, they won with obstetrics, right? They got in our minds. So we think like the white coat is the best coat. That is not.
They bamboozled women about this process. Women have been bamboozled, marketed to believe something that was very, very much far from the actual truth, simply because they needed to train white male doctors to actually to be butchers. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm not gonna say butchers. I'm not gonna say, but they simply to train male men who became OBGYNs as a part of their practice, and they needed patients to practice on, and the only way to get patients and the people who had patients were women, and when they removed women from this scenario, removed them from the process, and created this other system. This is what then began the deterioration, right? So it's horrific on every level.
Trust
it
me,
makes you angry on every level.
Makes you incredibly angry. I did the research for my book, and I was like, the minute they criminalized midwifery and medicalized birth, everything went downhill. Everything went downhill for all women. And then we were talking about earlier and I was saying that, at one point during enslavement, our babies had value, like economic value. And the minute our children stopped having economic value, all of a sudden they were worthless. We were worthless because now we're not contributing to the system that literally brought us here. Okay. And so the minute our children lost economic value, there was an intention to make them worthless. And that meant not caring about us. We see so many things around. That's right. How we birth. Nobody really cares about our outcomes. If our babies die, they're like, oh, you'll be all right. No, I'm traumatized, and so this dehumanization of us, and particularly through the birth process, which was a process that was used by this country to build this nation. Time that we start telling the truth.
Problematic. I mean, and as a midwife, who a lot of Black midwives, particularly people who are entering into the profession right now, a lot of them, it's beautiful, are entering into the profession with a knowledge and an understanding and an inspiration because of the legacy and the history of Black midwives in this country. But I entered into midwifery really not understanding that we had such a rich history and culture in midwifery and in I entered into the profession simply because I didn't like what I saw at the hospital. And I knew that this just didn't feel right. And so I entered it that way. Over the years, I have become connected to the history and the legacy of who we were and who we still are as Black women and as Black midwives birthing in this country. And the Shepherd-Towners Act kicked off a lot of foolishness across this country. And so now it's one of the things that I would say is that it's beautiful to know that things are beginning to shift. Things the Irth app. I do trainings for birth sisters. I do a birth sister / doula training. And it's so exciting to see that there was a time when I first started training that I had to pull teeth and mark it like a dragon to get people in my class. And now people are looking for me because we have this droves of Black women coming back into the fold of this work. And so it's beautiful to know that we have elders like Jennie Joseph who have been doing this work and standing in the gap until those of us caught up. But now we've caught up, and it's just exciting for me to know that we are making progress and we are moving towards the solutions and fixing the problem. And I agree with you, Rachel. We got to get them to fix the problem that they created. And in the meantime, we support each other the best we can. And it's beautiful to watch this transformation happening.
Yeah. I think just stuff like this, we're putting our energy in each other. Like, I can't fix racism tomorrow. I ain't got time. Like,
exactly.
Like, that's your problem. You know what I'm saying? So in the meantime, I'm going to join forces and pour my resources into us.
Into us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. And if you want to come along or you go, that's cool. But and it's necessary, but I'm not stressed about fixing you.
Yeah. And I think that's what concerns a lot of people. And I know, Nicole, you know this, even in the birth and breastfeeding space, when we said we're actually focused on our communities, y'all, yeah, okay, whatever. We trying to and the fact that we weren't trying to explain to them and we weren't trying to validate ourselves to them, and we didn't have to explain why we had a Black breastfeeding week, and they couldn't understand that we just said we don't need to explain to you. We busy in our communities and we don't have to explain this stuff to you. And so this idea, which is what we always knew, was that we can save ourselves. And that's what I love about this moment with Black birth and Black birth advocacy, the ways that Black and brown women are showing up, building solutions, whether it's digital, whether it's trainings, whether it's policy, like we've been covering the gamut today, whether it's mindfulness. It's like we are building the things for us to say, you know, as Rachel said, y'all bugging, and y'all been bugging. So, but we are busy.
And we're going to continue to be bugging. That's the thing, is that you ain't stopped bugging on racism. So you're going to continue to be bugging, but Black women cannot continue to be dying at your hands. And so, especially as we give birth. And so if this is a space in which we can take control, and in that control is the advocacy and the education, is that the more you amplify and talk about stuff, and you talk about Black breastfeeding week, you engage more Black women to understand you should be breastfeeding. You can breastfeed. It's not something that if you go to a facility that they don't immediately come in there and talk to you about breastfeeding, then you need to find you a breastfeeding doula or someone to support you. And we can, and that all of those things is what's going to help change our narrative, because we can't wait for them to change it for us, because it is not on their agenda. It's not on their priority list. Exactly. And so it has to be on our agenda as women. You're not going to kill my baby. I'm just telling you this right here, right now. You're not going to kill mine. So I'm coming through, and you're not going to kill my friends. And so if my girlfriend is pregnant and she's about to deliver, I'm giving her all of the information, and I'm empowering her with everything she needs to know. How do you get through all of these stages? And this is what you need. And I think that's what this is about. This community building is solely about, we advocate for ourselves. We demand the change that we need. And we also show that if hospitals are not able to give us what we need, we have other ways in which we can give to give birth. We can use a midwife and deliver at home. We can give birth with a doula at a birthing center. If big corporation hospitals can't manage to understand that we need a particular kind of care and demand a particular kind of care, they will when their money starts to change. And that's the only time folks really respond, is when the money changes. Because everybody wants to be where the money resides. So when the money changes,
exactly.
You think about it. If you think about even our Black Lives Matter movement, we've been talking Black lives, Black lives, Black lives. But when folks started to be like, "Oh, you want to act crazy? I won't buy from you."
Yeah, and that's what
I won't shop. I won't do. That's when folks started to really see. Oh, wait a minute. We really do have the buying power, and so when we shift that, we have that power is in our dollars, and so that power is in our dollars in retail. It's in our dollars in cosmetics, and it's also in our dollars in healthcare. We are going to the hospitals, and you are charging us. And a lot of us are paying cash because so many of us may or may not have insurance. So you're getting my money. So you're gonna come up off on this respect and make sure that I get treated
properly. And this is the thing that's so important. I love this because, I really think of Irth as a tool to address power imbalances, right? Because in this narrative, we're the victims, we're dying, our babies are dying. But with Irth, I'm like, no, we have consumer power. Something I learned at Essence, right? Like, people want to market to Black people, to Black women. And so how do we use our consumer power and say, no, we are a powerful block of women, as women of color, as Black women, and we are going to use that power to share publicly where we are receiving good care, where we are not, letting each other know. And like Anna said, if you don't come up off this respect, it's not going to look good for you, because we will be going to those who we can amplify. We want to tell our community where we're getting good care. We want to celebrate those who are getting great Irth reviews. That we can drive our consumer power to those folks and let that be a thing. My vision for Irth is that it becomes our good housekeeping seal of approval, right? And that we don't go to a provider or a hospital that's not Earth approved. And that is a designation
Right.
that they earned, that they have been driven to earn by our consumer power and hopefully required to earn by other regulatory powers, but that they have to be accountable to us, right? Like, yeah, okay, you want to check in with that institute, but what does the community say? And if you are not accredited, if you are not accredited by your community, you know, we really not here for it.
Yeah.
I love that. Earth approved.
Yes.
Earth tested and Earth approved.
Yeah.
Earth tested.
Yes, and Earth approved.
I already
Yes.
got the logo. I already got the logo.
Earth seal of approval.
Yes, we got to work on that. We got to work on
Yeah.
that. So, you know, but it's all about these community-centered models, community-centered validation. And so I think that's an important part of the next part of the movement, that we, you know, it's community building and it's power, right? And they're not going to pay attention until we are that powerful consumer block. So that's why we're here, telling our audiences to call us so we can take your Earth reviews, so we can build this app and get and hold these folks accountable. Please call us 855-450-4784. 855-450-4784. We got Nicole, Sister Midwife, on extension 711, Rachel Nix on 713, Marcia and Nana are at 714 and 718. Call the number, type in one of those extensions, and please share your experiences. If you've given birth in the past 2 years, we accept prenatal reviews, birthing reviews, and pediatric reviews up to baby's first birthday. So please call us and leave those reviews in the apps. We can start building our power and leaning into our consumer power. So thank you all for joining me. I want Fourth Phase to talk about an important movement that they're building. I saw this and I was so excited about getting the word fourth phase trimester into the dictionaries as a word.
Fourth trimester. So we actually kicked this campaign off today, which is add fourth trimester to the dictionary. And so one of the things, I mean, we launched this year, and one of the biggest questions that we were constantly getting, you know, when we were doing any type of media was, what is the fourth trimester? So you're getting this question from women who are mothers, who've never heard of the term. You're getting this question from, you know, folks who are in this space. And, you know, when we looked at just like, okay, how can we start as a part of our advocacy? What are the things that we get to do to change the language and to be able to inform people? And it's like, well, okay, let's look in the dictionary. The word didn't exist. Like fourth trimester is not in any dictionary overall. So like, and you think like, why that's, how is that even possible? And so we put together a campaign. We joined forces with Birth Halo, which is another company. They offer services, and specifically on the fourth trimester, like a concierge service. And so we put together campaign change.org for the top spaces: Merriam-Webster dictionary.com, Oxford Dictionary. And literally when we tested it, actually like a couple of weeks ago, with just a few people, 2 weeks after we put it up, Merriam added the word to the dictionary. And so we got one down.
We got one down, about five more to go.
Five more to go.
That's awesome.
So we officially launched today, but we were very excited when we saw that because we didn't even get 100 signatures, and we literally just kind of sent it to like some family and friends, and they're like, wait, let's try to get some more people to join us in this campaign to help amplify it. And then they're like, hey, it's already in Merriam. And I was like, it wasn't. And we took screenshots. So this is good because our video shows like us typing the words in the thing. So I was like, oh, see, I was like, wait, when did they put it? And we looked and it's like literally 10 days later. So because they were tagged, and I'm sure it was just like, duh, why is this word not in here? This actually, it's a medical term. It exists. It's a time period. It's an emotion. It's like literally one of the most fragile times that a mother is going to go through. And how can she even put words to it if she can't even find the word in the dictionary to even look it up, you know, to say like, what is this? And so, I mean, a big part of our, you know, just outreach, I mean, we're product driven, of course, but we're also education driven. Former editors, you know, that's going to be our backbone to be able to educate you and to educate you like on what the real thing is, right? And, you know, and words have power, and you must be able to name a thing. This is what I had. This is what I'm going through. This is the time period that it occurs, 12 weeks to a year. And understand that, and it's not just postpartum, and I'm not in depression. I am in my 4th trimester as a mother. Right. And that's a very specific thing. And so we're excited about that. We encourage everyone to sign the petition on change.org. Let's get it up there. We got 1 down, 4 more to go. Let's get through it. And everybody should be talking about it. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Everyone can, when they're talking about it, they're, speaking the actual words, and it's not calling it postpartum depression. And it's postpartum is a time, but depression is one specific thing, right? And so, it's just a clarification on the, words and language, and that's what we want to be able to do.
And I think the language is so important. Like, without language, how do we have meaning? And to really connect it to the whole, like, we think of trimesters as only the front end of the process, but to really create them as a continuum is always so important. So I'm excited about that. And this ways that we can definitely, give ourselves the language, understand, oh, this is a continuation, the other thing that started, but I'm still in this process, right? And I think in our country, it's like you give birth, they want you back to work in 10 days. And I mean, it's pure craziness in this country around the ways that, childbirth is not even honored as a thing.
And back to work the same day. Somebody's going to send you an email.
Right.
You ain't emailing me while I'm still on this table.
Everyone, right? Including your partner, your partner, friends, the expectation, forget the mental, the emotional, even the physical. I have a girlfriend, her sister has 3 kids, and I was public about my second postpartum, like physical journey. And she was like, yo, your stomach's still big? I'm like, girl, yes. And I'm like a trainer and I'm lean and I got, I said, but it's going to take a little time. I got uterus kind of groove like this.
Yeah,
right. Like this. And they got to go back down to this. How do you think it gets back down to this?
Snapback culture, like real talk, as a trainer. And listen, in the white culture, that shit is horrible. Like the continents that white women deal with is crazy.
Yeah.
Including fitness editors. I live in Manhattan. Like people trust me. I talk to them. I'm like, girl, like what? They're like, well, I need to be skinny. I'm like, do you need to be peeing on yourself? Like what? No, you need to rest. And so I get DMs from my students at a week postpartum, like, I'm ready to work out with you, Rachel. And I'm like, if you don't go lay down,
take a nap.
Take a nap. Like,
if you got time to work out, that means you got time to take a nap. I would much rather take a nap, do a suicide crunch. I'm telling you right now. I don't want to do no burpees. I'm going to take a nap.
But you're not realizing the pressures of society, your partner, of your friend, whatever, your friends. It's horrible. Yeah. There's so much. The other thing I think that we got so disconnected from is breastfeeding. And in my family, like, it happened to my aunt. Like, she was around me with my first, who's 3.5, and she would always just watch my breastfeeding journey. And she shared, she's 75. She got the shot. They shot her up and dried up her milk because people don't understand that these formula companies are predatory to Black.
And that's who they targeted when they first came out. That's who they targeted.
Yes. And my aunt was a young mother. She was like, into the doctor.
Is Rachel freezing for us? Okay, there you go.
Yeah, it was me. Yeah,
you're back.
Perfect. Yes, but like understanding that these formula companies are very predatory in their marketing to Black and brown people, and especially low income, and the misunderstanding that WIC is going to cover everything that you need. I've literally met multiple people, Black people, on the streets of New York City asking for money for formula because they were told that their babies were allergic to their milk. And when I tell you, that lights me up something ridiculous. You're gonna put cow's milk into that little baby.
Right, baby.
Are you out of your minds? And we as Black people have sensitive, our stomachs are sensitive, our skin is sensitive. It's like every time I get a facial and they're like, oh, your skin's sensitive. I'm like, well, what the fuck? It's not a tarmac. Like, I have skin. Like, it's skin. Like, I don't know. But I had a girlfriend say she had a doctor put a flashlight up to her baby's skin, talking about, I don't know what this rash is, I can't see.
On the baby's skin? Because he jaundice? Maybe you couldn't see
because the complexion. Because the complexion.
The baby was so dark she couldn't tell
the rash. Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a whole other level of dismantling. I'm sorry. That's a whole level of
as a doctor, you couldn't feel that.
But that's a whole level of dismantling, because when on a dermatologist and pain and what you see visually, when you go and try to look it up as a black and brown person, you don't see what it looks like on your skin tone.
Yeah.
Right. So, they're not taught to even to understand, like, you know what, this dark thing that's here, that actually means something. It's not my complexion.
Right.
It means there's trauma and you need to understand what that trauma to my body is going to translate and look like. When it comes to a darkened area, when it comes to the fact that you've had all those things, like they're not even trained for that. And you could look at any books, all the medical books and all this stuff, and you're like trying to see, well, what does it look like on my skin? Because I'm not going to turn red.
Yeah.
I'm not going to turn red.
Nakisha Killings is coming out with a melanated mammary list. I cannot wait.
Yes, that's what
I'm so super excited about this thing, because we understand that, even as a nurse, most of my experience was labor and delivery. So now I'm doing travel nursing, and I'm also working with the nursery babies, and I have to diagnose jaundice. And the jaundice diagnosis begins just with looking at the skin. And Black babies don't look the same jaundice as Caucasian babies. And so it's a whole level of understanding that many people just don't even get. The nurses don't get it. And so our babies are often diagnosed more with jaundice simply because we have yellow undertones, and you are assuming that we have this condition when in fact it's not necessarily. And the diagnosis comes definitively, from the blood testing or whatever, but we are more likely to be given the blood tests because looking at
that skin,
because you don't know how to determine between looking at the skin what is normal versus what is a yellowing of the skin. Yeah, it's really
learning so much. This is crazy.
So much.
And I already knew it was crazy, but this is a lot. The layers of it are just so ridiculous. And this is why we're doing the work that we're doing to really, we're in a re-education work about all of it, right? Our bodies during birth, or what childbirth is like, to expect. The fourth trimester, like all of it. It's like a reclamation work all the way around something that was taken from us, especially when it was stopped being of service to the white system that really used our bodies to make other objects that they could own and work and sell. So I am just so grateful for this community of people. I want to just reset and remind folks to please call us. Call. We want to
call it. We're here.
Yes. 855-450-4784. We are here listening. And if you just want to, at this point, we'll just chat. Like, girl, what you doing? Like, we just gonna be like, what you doing? What you making for dinner? What's your day like?
It's Friday. You're gonna go find your own food on Friday.
It is almost time for happy hour in New York City, so it's about to get into
these streets are lit. It is crazy.
The streets are ready, and I'm not ready for the streets. I want the record to show that when I have gone outside, I told Marcia, I've gone out and come back and been like, whoa, girl. I don't know how I made it.
Strong. The comeback was strong.
The comeback was just really a little too fast, too strong, and it felt like everybody was like, they said we could come outside. Whoosh.
Where do you guys live?
Everybody's outside.
And me personally, and I just finished a training. I guess
I have a call.
This Monday, I just finished my training. And during my training, yes, And during my training, I told them, you ain't got to go outside just because they said outside is open. Like, don't feel pressured. And that, is a part of this entire conversation about the fourth trimester and pregnancy and breastfeeding and all of these things. We live in a culture that does not support healthy, normal transition into mothering and parenting and just mental health wellness. And so just because they opened up outside don't mean you have to go. And if you do go, it don't mean you gotta stay. You can take it slow on our own. And I know for me, like you said, I'm saying, like you
okay, said, let it all out. All that Louisiana coming out.
All that Louisiana coming out. You ain't got to stay, baby.
You did. Did that come? Rachel just asked where we was from. I'm from New Orleans.
I can say that, baby. Yeah, am I? Yes, I know.
So
it's in Lafayette.
It's so interesting, and I think that historically there were like people all the time. Like, I know that what your grandmama told you might sound like too much, but the word EDC, estimated date of confinement, is what we used to say. Your due date, used to be called your EDC, estimated date of confinement. So I'm not suggesting that you must be fully confined, but you're not supposed to be in the streets at 3 weeks. You're not supposed to be in Walmart, at the restaurant, at the party, at the picnic, at the crawfish boil. You're not in what
nowhere.
We have shifted into this space where we also don't always want to hear the hard truth about this thing. So they say 7 days in the bed, near the bed, around the bed. That take you to 21 days right there. That's 3 weeks. And so all of these things we want to get out. If you just had your baby, go fill out the Irth app, download the Irth app, give your review, and stay inside and breastfeed and sleep. My baby just want to breastfeed all the time, right? Because in the postpartum
I had to stay in. My mom made me stay in the house for an entire month. I'm from Ghana, West Africa, and for an entire month, my mother was like, outside of going to the doctor visit, I didn't see nobody, and she was very much like, no one has to come and see the baby. That's my mom. She's like, it's not mandatory. It's not mandatory. It's not mandatory. They don't have to come. So people would come to my house, and my mother would legit be like the baby carrier. She would hold the baby and be like, "It's here," and she would go back into the room. Mom, the whole idea was they came. She was like, "It's not necessary."
But I love that because every other culture respects that postpartum period. In every other culture, you're right. You're supposed to lay down, stay home, relax. People are going to bring you soups and make special foods for you for your postpartum healing. It's only in our culture where it's like, no, you need to be back at work in 10 days,
back to work,
body back in 3 days, and all this other stuff. Like it's not even doesn't
necessary. Yeah, we've heard stories of moms like, when we started doing fourth phase, it was like, well, I didn't know what I was supposed to get. So I went outside to get it. I was like, after you had the baby? You went outside? You ain't sent nobody? You physically went outside. And so many moms was like, yeah, after I didn't know what to do. I was bleeding. I didn't have enough pads because I didn't have it. So I went outside I went to Walmart, and then I had to walk the aisles of Walmart. Nah, baby, you gonna just order this fourth phase box. It's gonna show up. You're gonna be all right. You're gonna sit in the house, stay there, breastfeed, drink this soup so you can make more breast milk, drink this tea in here, and chill. Because that is the way. I did not leave the house. And she was, when I tell you, she was a drill sergeant. She was slightly obsessive, a little on the crazy side, but I wouldn't have another baby without her. So I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. I remember one day I was in Walmart, and I'm in line behind this woman with this baby, and I'm looking at this baby, and I'm like, this baby looked like it's like 2 weeks old. Like, it was so tight, the way it was just kind of like bobbling her. Yeah. I'm knowing that this baby fresh. You know what I'm saying? And I said, oh my goodness, your baby is so beautiful. When did you give birth? And it was like 3 weeks before. And we had a short conversation, and I got to my car and I just cried. I cried because she really felt like she had no support. She had no choices. And this is what it was. And I also cried because she seemed to be just okay with it. It was just fine. She just in Walmart with her 3-week-old baby. And I was like, oh my God, this is so not okay. But I know it's a symptom, right?
Yeah.
Like it is a symptom of a larger systemic issue of racism, of patriarchy, of devaluing our bodies, of devaluing our births. And, you know, I'm talking, but I mean, I remember I got in my car and I just wept, like, for her, also knowing that she was an example of so many others. She was not alone in this experience. There were many others who also, you know, felt like they didn't have a choice. And this notion of, I had no one else to ask. I tell people all the time, like, listen, girl, ask your neighbor. You don't have to even like her. Ask her. You don't have to ask everybody who helped you. You just had a baby. I tell people, if your coworkers gave you a baby shower, it's because at least one person at your job likes you. Find out who that is.
That person who,
because
and ask her.
Yeah. Ask her to help
Ask her to help you. Don't do it. Yes.
Well,
we have to learn how to ask for help.
Right. And I think the real issue, to piggyback off that, is we're, you know, as Black people, we just want to like survive, right? And so we don't want to create any waves or ask for anything. And I'm like, no, we need to ask. And I also feel too, age is a big thing too on top of this. So number one, I've been hosting these pods, and a lot of young women have all shared how horribly they've been treated in birth in the hospital. Horrible. Yeah. Like, speaking of sobbing, like I was like horrified at their experiences and the acceptance in a way of it, because they didn't feel safe enough to advocate or to have the tools to advocate for themselves during the process or after. But on the flip side, a lot of us are educated, working, and waiting to have kids. And so I say a lot, we as women don't talk about having egos, but we have a lot of pride and we have egos. We expect things to go a certain way. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves to figure it out, right? And this is something that you have never done, and neither has your baby. And it is not supposed to ever be done in isolation.
Right.
Ever. No culture does it that way. And so this is not the time to prove that you can like do it all. It's the time to sit down and like put your feet up and like cuddle with your baby and like heal. And healing, like that's what I still don't understand. Like I have to take my baby to the hospital like 7 times before anybody checks on me. Like what? Like, you know what I mean? That is never
made. You don't get your first visit until 6 to 12 weeks, just almost 6 to 12 weeks after. And you're just like, but do you know what I've been going through? I remember I told Kim, I told you, I used to just cry with breast pumping. And he would be like, why are you crying? I was like, I don't know, because the sound of the pump and already having tubular breast, like once you already have tubular breast and you've just been like dealing with your life of like, oh, I hate my breast. And now they have milk in them. And then the pump gets on it. I sounded like I was at a dairy farm. It was like, every time I had to pump, I would cry.
Yes.
I was like, no, it's milking me. And I couldn't, and my mother was just like, what? And then we talked through the culture. So it's like, you don't have anyone to tell that to. And if you call your doctor and say to your doctor, I'm crying, immediately, they're going to think that you are, oh my God, she's not able to deal. She's having postpartum depression. And we need to put alert on her and put alert on the baby. And is she safe to be with the baby? And I'm like, no. It ain't, the baby ain't even in here. It's me and this machine. I don't like the medulla. It's me and the medulla. That's what's not safe. The medulla is company, and that's what's not the problem. But you couldn't even feel safe enough to say that to somebody. And if you don't have, and if you operate in a silo, you lead that small thing that is just you and the machine leads into a larger thing because you didn't have nobody to tell. You ain't have nobody to express that to. You didn't have nobody to laugh at you with that because you kept it all in. And now what started off as something so simple and could have been funny and has
Right.
now exacerbated into, I really am depressed.
Mhm.
I really don't know what to do.
Yes.
And I definitely don't know who to say it to. And the first person I say it to at the hospital, they're going to immediately call social work and social service. And now what started off as me just not feeling right and feeling leveled into my motherhood, into this process, now they're looking to take my baby away. And
Well,
so many of us those are the things we're afraid of. And that's what
real.
keeps us
That's
operating
real.
in a silo.
That's real. That is very real. I want to acknowledge that Jennie is back from her call. How was your call?
Look, it's so powerful to have someone dedicated to listening as you download so many. And I missed much of your conversation, but I get the gist of it. And I know what's always present for us is the lack of being heard, right? Listen. Just listen. And so taking the call was an opportunity to allow someone to just get off their chest what they needed to share, and to be able to have them be completely clear that there's a listening going on here, that there's a documenting going on here, that what you say matters and is also matching to the people who receive it. The value in what you're sharing on both sides, on your side, getting it off your chest, getting it out there, having your time to say what you need to say, but for the recipients to be able to look at that review and then have some value in that for their own decision making. This is about bringing power back where it belongs. We need our power. We have been totally, it has been stripped, it has been taken, it has been usurped. We don't have that. We have now to actively rebuild this. Earth and apps and opportunities like this are going to be the foundation, the structure with which we can rebuild, right? So that the consumers, the families, the community, and the providers have access to tools that will help us build a structure. As far as I'm concerned, our power is in the community. We don't need to break into anybody's system or disrupt this. We can do our own. We can come alongside, but we can have our own and do our own. And I think Earth is a great example of how, when we use the current technology that we have and just really get real intentional on doing what we've seen our ancestors do for millennia, seeing what our indigenous cultures and traditional cultures and practices still do, and we can bring it back. I just had this conversation with my student midwives this very afternoon, and we talked about the 40-day and the quarantina and these different traditional practices that are a matter of fact. It's not an issue or a debate. This is what happens.
Yes.
Now that your mother could no more not be there and be that person than fly. It's not possible for her, right? Because it's so deep. So we now can re-embed, and what I really consider is important is bringing back trusted community providers, both professional and paraprofessional, traditional and lay. It doesn't matter who you are, but standing in the space with families, with new parents, and saying, no more of this nonsense. We are reconnecting, we are rebuilding, we are restructuring our own liberation, our own recovery, our own healing. And thank you, Kim, because Earth just gives us a platform to get that done.
I'm so honored, Jennie. Thank you so much. And I think we've been talking about power, because the power that we have amongst us as practitioners, as midwives, as doulas, as entrepreneurs, like, we have power. And it's just one area that we really haven't fully leaned into it, because we've been kind of, thinking, okay, we're gonna wait for the system. One of the things that really drives me up the wall about when I'm talking about Earth is like, what will the hospitals think? What will the hospitals think? I'm like, I don't give a.
I don't give a damn.
Yes, we don't think. We need to. It's about us. Us fixing us doing us celebrating us helping us empowering us.
Everybody has that all, and the fact that hospitals are not allowed to respond, and that no, like
I know that gets in their crawl when they can't send you an automated email to tell you something.
Okay, so they can be up in there trying to demean and dismiss our experiences. I say to them all the time, no, actually, we listen to Black people. Sit with that. Like, that's what we do.
Yeah, and they really do want their input on these sorts of things. We have here in Louisiana, Sister Midwife has something called the Birth Story Project, where we were collecting surveys and feedback from people who have given birth across the state of Louisiana. And I remember having a conversation with a colleague who is a physician, and he says to me, "Well, have you talked to ACOG about this?" And I was like, "Well, no." And he's like, because, they're not gonna, it'll be more, they might receive the data. It doesn't matter how you receive it. The truth is the truth.
The data is the data.
Already off the bat, we have like 30, I think it was like 50% of the people have said that they felt forced to make a decision about their pregnancy based on something that their physician said to them, but not because they wanted it, but they felt coerced or manipulated into making it 50%. Over 50% of them said that. I don't need to ask ACOG permission to ask my people about their experiences. And when they give the information, ACOG, you need to listen to what people are saying about your membership. That's what I think needs to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I mean, this is getting heated. We're about to get kicked off the internet, y'all. The blasphemy and treachery and all sorts of Black female magic stuff. I want to bring in two more people to join this very rich conversation. Angela Lewis, who is an actress and now appears as Aunt Louie on FX's Snowfall, which comes on Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Next day on Hulu. She was born and raised in Detroit, received her BFA in acting from the University of Michigan, and she created the foundation to help combat Black maternal mortality and is a girl mom to a beautiful and precocious toddler who I believe she is still breastfeeding. We'll talk about that. And I'm excited to bring in Tomi Akitunde, who's the founder and heart of Maternal, a journalist by trade. Tomi herself on being a champion and curator of Black motherhood experiences. So proud of what she's built there. Thank you for joining this conversation, ladies. I appreciate you. I'm going to remind people that we are here standing by, like all these Black beautiful people looking like Hollywood squares for Black women, okay? Waiting to take your reviews. All right. So call 855-450-EARTH. We have our extensions up. We are here listening. We have power. And if we don't speak up, we can't leverage that power. We are here supporting you. We are here holding space for you to tell you that your experiences matter. And everybody here has taken time out of their day, their busy day, to be present to say this matters, right? And we're saying that you matter, your experience matters. Share it with us. We're going to put it in the app, and I promise you, we will put it with others and push for change. I promise you that. Like that's the work that we do on the back end. So I'm so honored that so many of my sister friends have showed up, and I'm giving myself goosebumps. I'm not going to cry again because Jennie already had me crying. I am just so honored that so many of my sister friends came to support Irth and the Earth-a-thon today, and that we are holding space for Black parents and birthing people to share with us their experiences. So don't forget the number. We have Jennie Joseph on extension 712, Nicole Deggins, Sister Midwife, on 711. Now we have Angela Lewis on 715, Rachel's on 713, Nana's on 714, and Tomi's on 720. Let's, come on, y'all. We are here. We are here waiting for you all.
Oh, man.
Oh, else we're going to have to start calling Tyrone, and y'all don't want me singing that song. So, you heard that we were talking about Black power, right? The ways that we have power, particularly in this space, and the ways that sometimes when we're asserting that power, we're being checked and told that we need to check in with somebody else's organization or check in with some institution. I just wanted Tomi and Angela to, if they wanted to weigh in on that conversation about how we are consolidating our power as Black women in this space around birth, around breastfeeding, and around our maternal experiences.
Yeah, I really love to return to the ancestral power that we've always had that has been socialized out of us through navigating inherently racist system. Like, we know our voices, we know our stories or our power, and we've been socialized not to share that information, to keep those stories to ourselves, to feel shame about our experiences. And so what I love about what you're doing with Irth is taking back that power and using it using our stories and our storytelling and our experiences to empower other people in their own birthing experiences. So yes to taking back that power, yes to owning our stories, yes to supporting each other and creating a network of information.
Yeah, yes to ourselves, yes to remembering that our bodies are created for us to have a bond with our babies, you know what I mean? And to not feel shame about that, to not feel like we shouldn't be breastfeeding our babies, we shouldn't be having babies, you know, and to understanding that the outside stress, the years and years and years and generations of outside stress has had a tremendous effect on our bodies, and just the trying to get back to the way it's supposed to be, back to who we were meant to be, I think is huge. And so I'm so honored to be here, and I'm excited for this.
Yay. And I know our sister Jennie has to leave, but please tell us how we can keep following and learning more about your great work, Jennie.
Yeah, you can find me at I am Jennie Joseph. You can find me at Common Sense Childbirth. I just want to say how important this work is and how I am so moved by this mobilization and the power that's already there in the birth workers of color, the providers of color, the facility owners of color. And I just want to shout out my midwifery school, because we are training the workforce to do what you guys are already holding ground and land, holding space for. We have 20 Black and Indigenous people of color midwives in a class in the first Black-owned privately owned midwifery school in the United States. And I am so proud of that. But I also want to encourage every one of you who wants to get involved in this field, who wants to be impactful in your community, to change this narrative. We need our community midwives. We need our community doulas. We need our community health workers. We need our healers. We need everybody, all hands on deck, because our very liberation depends on it. So find me, and you know how to find me. I am so thankful. I'm proud of you, Kim. I'm grateful for you. And it's been a real blast. And I was so happy to be able to take that call and listen to that young lady. She shared her story and what happened to her at that hospital. This work is powerful and meaningful. And thank you all. So I'm going to jump off and see you all the very best.
Thanks,
Mama.
Bye.
I mean, this is the thing, creating solutions, right? Black-led solutions, starting organizations, midwifery school, childbirth centers. Like, where are we creating those community-centered solutions? Nana, I know you have to go. Let everybody know where they can stay up to date on fourth phase. And the Nana is on a mission to put fourth trimester as in all the dictionaries. She's one down.
Putting in all the dictionaries. We're launching our campaign today. So go to change.org. Also follow us at Fourth Phase Box on Instagram, and we're also on Facebook at Fourth Phase Box. So thank you, Kim, for inviting us. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to meet all these amazing advocates and doers. And so I hope we can all, I know that we will all keep in touch, because we've all made this commitment to change this. So we in this together. So thank you so much. Super excited. And I'm going to tune in. I'm going to have you on the corner. I'm about to jump on another IG Live to launch the campaign, but I'm going to have y'all chatting in the corner so I can see y'all faces.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Give us the best.
Thank you guys so much.
Anna. Thanks for joining.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for joining. We are here with our next group of Earth operators, as we say. I'm so grateful for everyone who's volunteered to join. Please call us 855-450-4784. 855-450-IRTH. If you're like me and you can't see the letters, it's 4784. I am so honored by my sisters and the presence and those of us who really care about this issue. Angela, tell us about what motherhood has been like for you, kind of managing a very different type of work schedule as an actress.
Okay, there I am. It's been, it's been, I mean, I don't have anything to compare it to, but I have to say that because of COVID and being, on lockdown, it's been surprisingly beautiful to be able to spend so much time with my baby. I think I would have had 4 months with her for maternity leave while we were on hiatus. And then, so I went back to work when she was 4 months, and then we got shut down like a month later. And she'll be 2 in October. So I've had the opportunity to just get to know her and be with her and talk to her 24/7 every day for almost 2 years. And where that's been quite challenging as things start to come back online, or, in person, it's been a beautiful experience. Yeah.
Oh man, that is amazing. We can literally hear bugs and birds chirping wherever you at.
I'm in the redwoods, y'all.
Oh my goodness. I'm like, okay, that is not nature sound things from YouTube piping in. That is real live nature stuff.
Yeah.
Those of us city girls who are like, is that your ringtone? Well, we're so glad that you joined us, Angela, from even from out there. Nicole, tell us about some of the amazing things. You had the film festival, and I want just people to know about some of the other work that you've been doing around just Sister Midwife Productions and the ways you're bringing other elements into this birth work, because it's so exciting.
Yeah, so we had our film festival last year. This year will be our 6th annual Art of Birthing event happening in September, where we will once again have the Birth Justice Film Festival. And really the intention around that is just, we know that there are many horror stories. And we also know that there are beautiful experiences and stories of resilience and power and advocacy and hope and love. And so we also celebrate Black motherhood, Black birth during the Art of Birthing every September. In addition to that, we're doing our doula training. COVID was an interesting twist for all of us. And for Sister Midwife Productions, it forced us to really take a new look at how we were reaching community and shifted us into doing online training, something that my friends will tell you, I was like kicking and screaming. I will never do online, like literally. And it was like, what are you going to do? And so we had to pivot, and I made a pivot, and it has really been a blessing and a phenomenal experience, because now we've had the opportunity, or I can say I've had the opportunity to really bring the message, the empowering concept that birth is the revolution to people all over the country and even the world, because we had an opportunity to have international students once we were able to go virtual. So it's just really, really been a blessing for us. And we have a few other things that we have in the works. I'm not going to unveil just now, but it's exciting. And like I mentioned, the Birth Story Project, our online survey was super long. And we realized that it was daunting for mothers to take such a long survey. So we are in the process of revamping the survey. We are going to release it again. And right now it's just Louisiana. But it has been really powerful just to be able to read the stories. And like I mentioned, like over 50% of the people saying that they felt forced into making decisions about their experience based on things that their providers said to them. And so being able to gather that data and then being able to, hospital, you want to hear about what's happening? Let us tell you. Right. And so I'm excited about what the Irth app is doing, because I really see it as a beautiful partnership where we can take the data that we have from the Birth Story Project and couple it with the data from the Irth app and really use it for a full conversation with hospitals about how they are, giving care to people across the city of New Orleans, particularly because that's where I am, but also across our state. So people can follow me as Sister Midwife. I am going to jump off. So since I'm talking, I'll use this as a moment to kind of segue out. I am very proud of our Black Midwives and Doulas directory. We know that Black midwives and Black providers are a part of the solution to giving us better outcomes. So people can go to sistermidwifedirectory.com, find the Black doula, find the Black midwife, find lactation support from a Black person. And if you are a doula or a midwife and you are not listed, please get listed. I still get emails every day from families who are looking for you. It's free to get listed. It's free to search. It's just a piece of the puzzle. And whether
How long have you been working on that, Nicole? Did you?
I launched it. Yeah, I launched it right after. So I'm 10 years in business now, and I launched the directory a few months after I launched my business. So it's almost 10 years because it just floored me. I'm like, why are we on Facebook? Anybody know a Black doula in Philadelphia? Anybody know a Black doula in New York? I'm like, it's 2010. We don't have, it's like, what's going on here? And so originally it was painstaking. I'm talking one person. Well, I had interns and volunteers. We do one person at a time, uploading. Now it's much more automated. People can control their listing and add information and take away information and upload their picture and put their website in. So much more robust. You can search by state, you can search by city, you can search by profession. My recommendation is always just search the whole state and let everything that's available come up. And then based on that, make a decision on how you want to filter the search, but get the most and then narrow it down. So it's been since 2012 that the directory has been in existence. And it's one of the most exciting projects I think that I've worked on as an entrepreneur, as a Black woman, as a Black birth worker, as a midwife, knowing too, like I get testimonies that are like tear jerking. Like, thank you so much for having this directory. I found my midwife. I found my doula. Like, I don't share all that publicly, right? But it's beautiful. And it lets me know that the work that we put in, one name, one person at a time, it was worth it. And it continues to be worth it. So sistermidwifedirectories.com for that. And I'm on mostly Instagram, a little bit on Facebook, trying to get to YouTube, trying to get this podcast launched. You know how it goes.
Well, I'll be watching. I'm so grateful to you. And I know you have been working on that directory for you.
No, forever. Kimberly, you know, we go way back to the first time you came to New Orleans. You know what I mean? When I was connected to Twitter. I since let Twitter go, but I remember meeting you, and you know, so this call to action for me was a no-brainer because I know your passion, your commitment, and your desire to really do great work for our people around birth and birth justice. And I look forward to seeing the Irth app continue to blossom and grow and be a vehicle for change for our community. So thank you for the work that you put into it. Yes.
Thank you, Nicole. I appreciate you. I love the New Orleans thing, and Nicole always makes sure if I'm in town, I'm treated well and I eat well. So me and her are just going to stay tight because I can't be down there without getting good food. It was so interesting, you know. Hey, everyone, we're here for the Irth app. Call in 855-450-4784. We are standing by to take your calls. We want to hear from you. We want to support you. Please, if you're there, spread the word, tweet it out, post it, let people know that we are here waiting to take your calls. Prior to the pandemic, you know, when I got grant funding for Irth, it was for us to go into 5 cities, you know, work with the community, get feedback on design. Like, it was a whole iterative process. My goal was that Irth would be literally built with the community. And we started in New Orleans. This was November 2019, on the ground at churches and Walmart parking lots, like knocking on doors. And Nicole was there with us, and we were at all the things and asking people about the app and showing it what it could look like and getting their feedback. It was amazing. It was amazing. And then the pandemic hit and we had to go online, but it was really a beautiful experience for me. I always love being in my community, and that is the most rewarding part of the work. And I'm really honored that we got to start that process, that we just had to continue online. But that idea that, you know, we were going to build Irth with our community was very, very important, and something that I built by design into the structure. So no technology was built until we had checked in with our community, got feedback, and did that over and over again. And so, yeah, it took us, you know, almost 2 years to get literally in the app stores, from being on the ground, asking folks, what do you think? What do you want? And I'm really grateful that we gave that process the time and the space and breath that it needed. So it's just us 4. I'm looking in the comments, and, you know, it's like so interesting that people are saying my client had a horrible experience. And we're like, all these, we get them all the time on DMs, posting. Why aren't people calling in? What do we think? Do we still feel like, have we normalized it so it doesn't feel important enough to share?
Oof, that gave me chills right there, right? Like, trauma being so normalized, you don't even know that it's trauma.
Yo, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, do we even have the space and time to process what's happened to us before we're catapulted into wearing our 85 hats again, you know? Like the rushing from the next thing to the next thing. You know, I have a student now, a friend of mine, who's been dealing with so much stuff, like had to get a hysterectomy and now endometriosis is back. And today I said, girl, she's young. She's 27 with 4 kids, but I don't think she has the space to even I'm fine. I'm like, but you're not fine. Every time I talk to you, you have a major health problem going on. So I need you to like prioritize that, not everybody else. And so, you know, women have that bad generally, but Black women, it's just, we are always in overdrive. And so, you know, the example I had on Mother's Day was with friends. And it wasn't until I was away from my stress that I even knew I had it.
Yeah. And I think there's also a lack of understanding of how everything is connected. We're not understanding that stress affects my body and my reproductive system and how sleep. I was talking to a friend who's in the medical industry. She's a nurse, and there is a convention or something happening around sleep deprivation and how that affects the reproductive system. And so and of course, Black women are, you know, more affected by that. And it's like, yeah, and the not understanding that your sleep absolutely, or the lack of sleep absolutely affects, you know, everything, you know. And so I think that's all around. We just don't understand how everything affects everything. We compartmentalize so much.
Yes. We're also private as a culture, and we need to get out of that. This, like, you know, after I went through my miscarriage, I was like, this is not something that I should then jump back, go to work, and act like everything's fine. Like, and I know people are. And so once I shared it, I got a flood of like, me too. I'm like, so, you know, it's things like that, you know, it's like you get pregnant, don't tell nobody. Like my dad and my father-in-law were like, you pregnant today, so we gonna be happy today, okay? Because I'm about to be a grandfather, and if that changes tomorrow, it changes. So when I got pregnant again and lost that one, then we were happy until we mourned. And so just like being present in every stage versus this, like, which is again by design from, you know, white culture, the man, whatever you want to call it, is to keep us contained. And we as a people come from an oral tradition. We're expressive, we're visceral. There ain't nothing wrong with that. You know, if it's too much for you, that's fine. But like having a shared experience and connect. Slavery disconnected us by design. So the fact that we're not reaching out to connect, like we have to undo all that stuff that was passed on to us.
Right. That was put upon us to dehumanize us so that our pain didn't matter. Our you know, our experiences didn't matter. And I worry that we're still carrying a bit of that, right? And there are
totally. Yeah, definitely. Which is why these conversations are so necessary. Like, you couldn't see my like what was happening internally, but when Angela was saying like sleep deprivation affects reproduction, I was like, oh shit! Like, I am not sleeping. Like, this entire week has been super hectic, super busy, and I'm on a trying to conceive journey. And like, just hearing that, if I hadn't heard that, I would not have been like, oh, maybe I should go to sleep. Maybe I should, like, you know, not right now, but like close the laptop and put the phone away and like take my ass to sleep, because I deserve rest. My worth is not in how much I produce. But like, again, if I didn't hear that, I would still be going on overdrive. So
you deserve rest. You're welcome. You deserve rest, but also the lack of rest creates inflammation. So, you know what I mean? Like, there's that component too. That's very real. If you're the kind of person that needs science, that needs, you know, that physical thing, there's that, you know, so.
No.
I have been learning things all day long.
This is that you've learned so far.
Oh my goodness. I should have started writing stuff down. Well, was they were telling me about some postpartum care, because I gotta admit, I wasn't really clear. Wait, don't be mad at me. I wasn't really clear about the pelvic floor. It's something that I learned later on. I was like, what is this pelvic floor? And so, like just some of this knowledge about my body that I was like, I don't think I really knew that. And I do this stuff kind of all the time. But I think that we've been having such powerful conversations about mindfulness, right? Like, and how we have never had the luxury to give time to rest, right? Our ancestors just had to work. Part of that dehumanization that didn't allow us to pause, that didn't allow us to say, actually, in addition to my body, I need to check in on my mind, which is actually another organ that needs attention. So that's been a very rich conversation. Erica Chidi from Loom was here earlier, just talking about, like the ways we bring creativity into everything that Black women do. It's just been phenomenal stuff all day long. So y'all can hold on to your stuff if you want to, but we are here growing.
And I love that.
We invite you into the process. Give us a call, 855-450-IRTH. Share your experiences. We want you to know that we are listening. Your sisters are here. Your experiences matter, the good ones too. Like, we want to be able to say where we are receiving good care. So if you have a doctor that's treated you well and you feel good about that, let your community know. If you had experience that wasn't so great, well, let your community know. Like, that's what we're here for, and we really need to validate ourselves and validate our experiences as being worthy of sharing. It concerns me when we would, talk more about a restaurant experience than we would about bringing our life into this world. And we really need to bring that same energy to correcting the system that's disproportionately killing us. So let's bring that review power that we know has been so forceful in many other industries. How do we use that to now get this industry to treat us better with respect and some dignity?
What is it? Black Twitter? We need Black Twitter for birth experiences. Maybe that'll be another end.
Yeah, it's crazy to me that it takes someone dying for these conversations to go viral, and then that's it. It's actually had to turn down. Well, I don't feel bad about it, so I should change my language, but I turned down an offer to write an article about the Black maternal health crisis because that's all they wanted was the trauma. And I was like, no, like there are solutions. There are like going online when I first started Modern Maya and I would type Black moms into Google, it would auto-populate with the worst, single, abusive, and other really stigmatized phrases. Now it's Black moms are dying. And that's the story that people want to hear because it's trending, because it's viral, because it gets clicks, but they're not as invested. And when I say they, I mean like media, mainstream media, they're not as invested in the solutions. They're invested in the clickbait of using our bodies as a source of clickbait. And so, yeah, I do think that it is deeply problematic that like the solutions aren't as valorized as the problem, as the crisis.
And I think, to your point, Tomi, it's like our pain has always been on parade, right? And so we have this Black pain porn thing that people feel really comfortable with. But what they aren't comfortable with is us standing in our power and acknowledging that there are solutions. They've been community-centered. They've been around for ages. They've been working. And that part they are not comfortable with at all. And this is what we're pushing up against all the time, particularly in Irth. I was saying that when I go to hospitals and do presentations and they're like, what, people like, what do the hospitals think? And I'm like, we really don't care. Like, we're here for the community. We're lifting up our experiences. We're turning that into data. And then we are be able to use our collective power for change. What the hospitals necessarily think is not number one on my list. Maybe not 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But we do like to work with them so they can learn. Yes.
Hold them accountable and let them learn. Like, if you're never being held accountable, how are you going to improve? How are you going to affect change? So yeah, definitely.
The door is open, but they need to cross the bridge. The threshold.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. On that note, I am so like, this like is all God at work, and there is so much hope. I think the final thought I would have is like, we as Black women need to be careful of the the negative that we continue to swallow and absorb as well, because you can and will have a beautiful birth, right? So if you only think you're gonna have a negative, that is actually affecting our births. Myself included, many Black women I know stalled at like 4 and 5 centimeters, and I wasn't even conscious of my fear. But after having Baldwin and having a lot of bleeding, I said, do what you gotta do. I just don't wanna die. So it is affecting me, even though I had the resources and the support. It's affecting all of us negatively. And so people who don't understand how birth works, as me wearing my doula hat, it's really simple. Like if you're afraid to give birth, you won't give birth. So then interventions have to start coming, and intervention is a domino effect, which increases your rate of mortality, because cutting is not safe or necessary in many instances. And so that's where we have to step into our power and realize we were made to give birth, and that we can make another choice, because the choice given to us was by design and not our choice, you know? So I clearly could go on forever, and I'm be in your inbox, girl. We're gonna talk about all.
Yes. Well, tell us where we can be following you before you. I got to thank Angela for introducing me to you.
Yes, thank you.
I want to acknowledge that.
I was like, middle of the night, I was like, Rachel@birthqueen.com. And then the next day I said, did you email me? She's like, yeah, girl. I said, oh, girl, I was half asleep. Org. So yeah, follow @birthqueen.org, or you can follow me as well, Rachel E. Nix on Instagram. We're gonna talk about pelvic floor and all the things. You don't have to share all your details right now, but I got you, sis.
Thank you so much. I thank you so much. Latham sent me something. I was like, is this for the kitchen? I don't know what to do with this. So I will be following up. I'm still on some parts of my own learning journey. So yes.
That's what's so dope is it's like a melting pot. We all put our stuff in the stew, and then it tastes yummy, and we all are well fed, you know? So
I love it. Thank you, Rachel, for showing up today. I appreciate it.
Bye, Tomi.
All right. So this has been such an amazing day. Tomi, well, first I want to remind people that we are here waiting for your calls, hoping that you will trust us and that you feel empowered to share your experience and to know that it matters. So excited, honored to have Angela Lewis to take the time out of her busy schedule to be here with us. And Tomi had time out of her busy schedule to be here with us. 855-450-IRTH, extension 715 or 720. Please call and share your experiences with us. We are waiting here to capture it, to help it go into the app so we can really raise reviews, because that's how we have collective power. We have the numbers and they can't dismiss our stories individually, but that our power is collective power. Tomi, I wanted to talk to you just about creating content for Black women and what that has looked like. I mean, because you've been at this for a while. How has that changed? I remember when I first met you. Do you remember this?
Yes, I do.
We were coffee or lunch, and this was back when I was doing mochamanual.com. Yeah. And so you have seen, the evolution of just creating content for Black motherhood. Tell us what that journey has been like for you.
Yeah, so I started Mater in 2012 as an online magazine, and it was really looking to talk to women about how they have work-life. I called it balance at the time, but now I realize it's integration. Like, how are you making choices in your career and your life? Because a lot of what I was seeing was super just like not transparent at all. It was just like, I woke up in this beautiful brownstone with this beautiful person who gave me these beautiful kids, and I have this money and I'm just successful. And it's like, okay, but at the time I was like 27, but how do you do that? Like, let's be honest about these conversations. And so at the time, there wasn't like a lot of beautiful photography of Black families and like beautiful storytelling. So that was what Mater Mea offered, was this like deep dive into these stories. And then the community that was building up around Mater Mea was like, I don't relate to these women. I was like, what are you talking about? She's Black, I'm Black, we're all Black. What are you talking about? And I made a big point to make sure that it was really as expansive as possible. So like moms who are married, moms who are single, moms who are queer, moms who adopted, who had surrogacy, who have had miscarriages. I really wanted it to be super open and show the expansiveness of our experiences, because we often say being Black isn't a monolith, but then we still have these like ideas about what being Black looks like and what it feels like. And after having some conversations with people, it was more that they had questions that needed answers, and there was no one answering those questions. So it was like, you know, my kid is the only Black kid in his class, and now he's coming home and saying he wants peach skin and yellow straight hair. Like, how do I help him love his skin? Or I want to have a home birth, and I'm not seeing I'm not seeing Black women in this space. Like, it's very, very white. How do I find a culturally competent midwife or doula? So it was so great to see Sister Midwife, because I just directed people to her site back in the day. So yeah, it was, you know, I'm a journalist. And so I felt like, you know, let me just be a digital auntie, since I have way more free time compared to these mamas out here, and use my resources. So yeah, so the site became what I tongue-in-cheekily refer to as Black Mom Google. It's like where you go if you want to know who is making Black family music so that you can turn up with your kids. It's where you go. I'm starting to do more, just like, I feel like now that I'm approaching 10 years, it's like having a Black mom blog isn't unique. So what does Modern Maya do really, really well? And Modern Maya is for the parent who recognizes that there was generational trauma in the way that they were parented, and they just want to put a kibosh on it, and like, it stops with me, and I want new tools to learn to raise the next generation of mindful, intentional, healed human beings. So the content on the site now is really focused on providing people with those tools to have empowered pregnancies and postpartum experiences, helping your kid navigate a racist system. I'm working on a big, just like a big compendium of resources for navigating like white school curriculums, self-mothering, like having a child, me trying to have a child has brought up stuff about like how I was parented. And it's like, oh gosh, I need to deal with this. How do I deal with this? And where do I have conversations and community around that? So yeah, it's been riding the waves and seeing the trends for the last almost 10 years.
Yeah, it's
I'm
been
following
great.
you right now. This is amazing.
Thank you.
And it's been like a journey, because, you know, when Toby started, it was like me, Deneen Millier with My Brown Baby, me with Mocha Manual, and then Modern Maya came, and then it was like, you know, but it was not a thing. It was not a thing. So I salute you for putting the time in and watching what it has grown and how it has blossomed. It's so beautiful. I really love this idea about intentional parenting. I mean, I wonder what you think, Angela, because, you know, I mean, yes, our parents parented us differently, but we kind of came out pretty awesome. I mean, just considering, and I'm always trying to balance that which I want to preserve and that which I want to change. And I don't know, I think we're at a new generation of parenting where we are looking at, okay, well, these were the things that work. Like right now, I'm like, my children need an appreciation for things that I feel like I had that they didn't have, because things came a lot easier for them, right? So, you know, like that was an important piece I'm trying to get back, you know. So I'm just curious, Angela, for you, what has that been looking like as you think about how you parent?
Yeah, it's funny because I've always thought of myself as like wanting to be an educated consumer. So like if I'm gonna go buy, you know, a water bottle, I'm online reading like what makes a good water bottle, and I'm reading reviews and all that. And so when I was wanting to have a baby, I was like, how can I not be the same way? So I like went in on everything, and I still didn't learn everything there is to learn, but I realized that I learned more than a lot of people, and it's been the same way with parenting, you know, listening to parenting audiobooks and things like that. Like I really want to know. And, you know, I feel like my parents, you know, did a great job at raising me, but I'm also knowing that there are some things that I, you know, want to do differently. You know, I want to, you know, expose my child to a different way of of how I understand who she is as, an individual and a sovereign human being the minute she came into this earth, and so I feel like the more we can learn, and we shouldn't be afraid to just be on autopilot. We should go, dig deeper. What is it how is it, what kind of parent do we want to be? What kind of human being do we want to raise? And how do we do that? And I think the more we can seek out those answers to whatever questions you have in life. That's the great thing about Google and the great thing about Black Mama Google. You know what I mean? Whatever question you have, type it in and see what you learn, because inevitably you're going to learn more than what you set out to learn. And that's, knowledge is power,
I love that, because I feel like, there was much that we had to do on autopilot by default, and that we are, at this moment where we could choose something different, right? And not to dishonor in any way what our parents did for us, doing the best that they had with what they knew and what they had access to. And now we are doing the best we can with what we have access to, which is so much more. But it's always funny because my dad, who has looked at my parenting many times, like, even now, when I go his house, like, don't come over here looking for no organic food. We don't really. I'm like, Daddy, organic food is really healthy for you, and my children don't even drink soda, and they don't even have sugar. I mean, it was just, he's just looking at me like, what is going on?
And then the understanding that oftentimes they did things because they had to, or they did things because their parents did things, but their parents did things because they had to do it that way. And so, now in, 2021, what is it to understand why this thing happened, and what would it be if I did something different? Maybe I seek out that something different. I realize, nah, actually, I like the way my parents did it. Or maybe you find, actually, this kind of speaks to me.
Yeah. And I don't want to condemn, because there are some things that I'm like, oh, you're like, I'm like deep in the work and therapy right now. So it's like, you're like, people pleasing tendencies definitely come from being the eldest daughter of a Nigerian family, first generation. Like there are some things that are really good about that, and also really maladaptive about that too. So
good words, Tomi. Good words.
Yes, maladaptive. Yes.
That is messed up, like we didn't have the language. We didn't really have the language. So I love that. I appreciate that. And I enjoy this kind of moment for Black parenting and the ways that we are, being intentional, also having compassion. When I was working in Detroit for many years, Angela, your home city, and just seeing, how these are intersectional issues, right? And so when they're demonizing a mom because she sent her kid to school with Pepsi and whatever, but never thought, well, this is all she could quickly get in her neighborhood and what she could afford, right? And so, really helping people see the connections to all these things, right? Like what you eat is a product of what you have access to and what you can afford. It may have nothing to do with what you know. Like you can know that that's not okay for you, but if you can't afford it or get to it quickly, what good is that knowledge? What good is the knowledge? So,
the mommy wars, I just realized, is like an extension of how society hates women. Like, if you loved women, if you loved families, you would make it easier to be a parent, to be a mother, but you don't. And so we've like created this system where it's easier to judge people than to help them, or create systems where, I don't have to go to the bodega to do my grocery shopping. Like, I have access to fresh, wholesome food right down the block. Like, I don't have to consider the fact that like I can eat a certain way of privilege. Like, that should just be a natural born right. But
it's not in our country. It's not in our country. And, I don't take that for granted. And I think it's important that we keep making these connections so that these issues are not oversimplified and that people understand, like, because many times they often judge Black mothers, but without even thinking that actually she's doing the best she can with what she has access to, and that's all any mother can ask for.
Yeah.
All of us can ever do. So just always trying to, kind of add that layer, because it's real. And the way that our country is set up to really not have access, we talked about food deserts. I did a whole Piper Kellogg Foundation about first food deserts around the places where, birth and breastfeeding in particular was not happening. And there was deep overlays, right? Where people are struggling to get healthy food, those babies aren't getting their healthiest nutrition either, right? And so all of these things are connected around, and what that means for that infant's health when they're not getting their most nutritious food from the beginning of their life. It's crazy. And then it all goes back to money, because, to your saying about the mommy wars, Tomi, it's like, because once they've got you, separated, then they sell you something for this. So if you're this mom, you buy this, you go here. If you're this mom, you buy this, you go there. And it's all really about selling you things to fit the archetype they shoved you into. You're like, but I like everybody, actually.
And I didn't realize, so there was a book that I received in the mail. It's called Skimmed. It was a story about the Fuchs twins and the commodification of baby formula. And I stopped at recommending it because the family was not pleased with the book and appears to not have been contacted about it. But I didn't realize that, like, the government is part of why baby formula is what it is, because there was surplus of, like, I want to say corn, and they were like, oh, let's Well,
first let me remind y'all, 5th book, The Big Letdown, How Medicine, Business, and Feminism Undermines Breastfeeding, wrote a whole chapter on it. Like, basically this came from excess milk. Like, the dairy industry, which of course is one of the most subsidized industry in our government, had all this milk, like literally it was in the streets, and they decided to use infant formula. So there was no nutritional decision that said cow's milk is the best base for infant formula. It was really a financial decision based on this surplus, and they're looking for markets for the surplus. And I remind you that the number 2 most subsidized crop in this country is soybeans. And what is your second infant formula option? Soy, the soy-based formulas, which they now have been pushing. And so, like, the more you dig deeper into this system, we were talking earlier about, the WIC system, which of course is really important. 60% of US infants are born WIC eligible. 60% of babies born in this country are born WIC eligible. Yet WIC remains the largest infant formula purchaser in this country. And they're doing great things to try to support breastfeeding in different places, but the whole WIC system functions because of the money the formula companies pay WIC for the right to market to all the Black and brown folks who are just, it's crazy. It's crazy.
And I just want to say, for all of the digging deep that we do, if you don't have to dig that deep to learn some of the crazy stuff, you know what I mean? That can kind of propel you to make a healthier choice or to do something different because it's healthier for your baby. Because it's just so messed up.
Okay. We're trying to use our big words because Tomi got us thinking about maladaptive, but there's a curse word that definitely comes to mind. And then I want to just acknowledge that, and we do this in our work, I'm the co-founder of Black Breastfeeding Week, August 25th to 31st, everyone. But, so many people, thank you, so many people want to breastfeed. They know it's important, but when you live in a country where you have to go back to work in 10 days or your job hasn't given you a paid leave, is it really something you can exercise, right? It's that same knowledge about nutrition that you can't even use because it's not locally accessible,
Right.
So it's always so layered. It's always so layered. And it's a huge issue. It often always comes back to money. But we are out here fighting systems. And to Angela's point, to your point, Tomi, like, the education is where we have to start. Because once and for me, that turns into anger. I'm like, wait, what? I start getting upset, and then I'm like, oh, no, right?
So, and that's what I love about the app too, is that it lets you it's accessible. Like, I don't know what the percentage is, but I feel like a good chunk of people have access to a smartphone. They have access to their stories. They can share their story and like feel empowered in sharing their experiences instead of like, you know, I don't have any course of action to take when something I know I'm focusing on like traumatic stuff, but like when something bad happens, like where do I go? Who do I talk to? Who's gonna like not pass the buck down, pass me down the line? Like I have this, and dismiss. I was for National Infertility Awareness Week, I had a number of conversations with Black women because Black women are 2 times more likely to experience infertility because of all the things. But that's not the story that you hear in mainstream conversations around infertility. And the conversations that we were having, I was like, I've allowed myself to be dismissed in this entire process. Or like, I started to feel like I was at a butcher shop and someone was just like, take a number and like your husband will go in the cup and like we'll like poke you and get blood. And like, I didn't feel seen. And so it's been hard for me to find a space where I feel seen in my fertility journey. But then I knew I can go to this person and ask them, like, who did you work with in New York? Who made you feel like a human, who cared about the fact that you and your husband have been trying, it's affected your marriage, it's affected like who's gonna listen and care and like shepherd this soul into the world with me and not treat me like a number. Like having Irth, having these spaces, having these connections and storytelling and like, oh, I got you, Dr. So-and-so, like go over there, he'll be like family, or she'll be like family, or they'll be like, I'm just really excited about what you're doing.
Thank you.
But yeah.
I want to honor you for sharing that. It takes a lot of strength, you know, to share our struggles and our challenges. I just really want to honor you for being transparent and vulnerable and sharing that with us. You know, one of the things I find in this fertility conversation is, you know, it comes back to this racist idea that we are hyper baby making machines and that we always popping out babies. And so when people realized that wasn't their journey, they felt like something was wrong with them. Meanwhile, white women have been talking about their infertility for years, and they have been cradled, supported, coddled, the whole industry. And so this idea, that, you know, we don't have the conversation around the realities of all of our experiences, including infertility, is something that I'm glad that you are helping break the barrier by. I know Michelle Obama mentioned her book. We had Gabrielle Union talking about surrogacy. I know now Eggs Over Easy is going to be on OWN. Thank you, Oprah. I'm real excited watching that film project grow. And so that we can really begin to broaden this vision of what Black motherhood is about, which includes struggles with infertility, surrogacy, all the things, right? And for me, that is the goal, that we can be actually fully dimensional humans who are allowed to have the full scope of experiences. We deserve that, right?
Yes.
We deserve that. I'm so excited. And this is really what Irth is about. We are here rounding down. Areva Martin, the award-winning civil rights attorney, is joining us. We are really excited about this day of the Irthathon. I can't believe I have been standing here since noon, y'all. Okay?
Looking great. I'm so into this cool situation.
Yes. You do not want to be the bottom half. But I am giving you lots of energy up top, which is very pandemic. It's very pandemic. So I'm feeling good about it. I'm feeling good about it. Thank you.
I love a top half give. The earrings are what I'm bringing to the situation. So I totally understand.
Yes.
I love it. Well, I'm
bringing the trees, y'all.
Yes, you're giving us trees and birds and nature. Everybody's bringing something. This is the way this is how we do. Oh my goodness. Areva Martin, thank you for joining us. Areva is an award-winning civil rights attorney, Harvard Law School graduate, talk show host, and entrepreneur. You probably see her on CNN doing all the things. She's been an audience favorite on Dr. Phil, The Doctors, Good Morning America, and she also hosts her own show, and her book is coming out soon. I can't wait for everybody to grab it. Ladies, Leadership, and the Lies We've Been Told. Okay. I'm here for that. Helping women worldwide recognize, own, and assert their limitless power. This has been so amazing, and I had the honor to be on Areva's talk show that she hosts as well. And so thank you so much for coming and sharing space with us and around this issue. Tell us, what on earth brings you here today? Oh, Areva, you're muted. Hold on.
All right, there I am. All this technology. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Kimberly, and pleasure to meet you, Angela and Tomi. Just honored, pleasure to be here with you ladies today. So what brings me here? As you know, Kimberly, you and I met because I was co-hosting a SiriusXM radio show, and we were talking about Black maternal health. And I got interested in it because I had an opportunity to interview some women on my own show, the special report, about the challenges they had as mothers making decisions about even where to go to give birth to their children and some of the challenges that they had in mainstream hospitals. So I'm a mother of 3. So whenever you're talking about giving birth, I'm there for it because I know what that experience is. And it just breaks my heart when I read the statistics about how dangerous it is in this country, the richest country on the planet. But yet African-American women are at such great risk when they do something as natural. It should be as normal as giving birth. So I want to thank you for all the work that you're doing, raising awareness, bringing women together, having these critical conversations, because this is the moment where everything is on the table, right? We're talking about criminal justice. We're talking about housing, employment, education, curriculum, even critical race theory. Everything is on the table. And on that table, there should be room for a conversation about how do we make birthing in this country, particularly birthing for Black women, safer. No one should have to worry about dying giving childbirth. So, while we're having this national reckoning on race and systemic racism, let's make sure the issues of Black women is front and center in that conversation.
Absolutely, because it all comes back to racism. We were just talking. Tomi's giving you snaps. She's giving you snaps, Areva. Areva always brings the power. I'm so excited. I think we are. Porchia-Albert is here. We are so excited about our conversation today, and we know that much of this is about racism and the ways that our care has not been respected. Our bodies are not respected. Our children have not been respected. So we're super excited. I am so honored that this is like my superstar hour. I got Angela Lewis from my TV show. I got Areva from my news shows. Porchia-Albert was just in the Nike new, I don't want to call it an ad, initiative. I'm like, now I feel underdressed, Tomi.
What, Chanel? How did I miss this? I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it's pretty dope. It's pretty amazing, but the Irth app is even better.
You are so kind, but quickly tell us about the Nike initiative that's just started that you've been involved with, and I know Latham's part of it too.
Yeah, so it's called Ultrasound, which I think is an amazing name, and it's really set to just bring awareness to Black motherhood and all of the different intricacies that happens when you become a mom. You know what I mean? So through the pregnancy, childbirth, and postpartum period, talking about doulas, talking about equity, talking about accountability and advocacy, and what does it really mean to bring our children into the world in a safe space, where they are seen, they're heard, and they just know that people genuinely love and care about them. So I'm really, really excited about it. If you go to my page, you can check it out.
I'm sorry, Chanel, is there some public facing? Is there going to be something we'll see on the news, on TV shows? Is it a conversation? Help us understand how we find it.
Yeah, so if you go to the Nike app, you can download. If you go to the home screen, you can scroll down, and if you go to their motherhood section, you can see it. But they also have ads running on all social media platforms, as well as at Nike Women, where you can definitely check it out and see. And then I think there's going to be some ads out in the public, like billboards or something. But yeah, I'm not sure yet. So we'll see.
Great. Yeah, congratulations on that. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
I think that it's important to acknowledge how brands are paying attention. And of course, we want it to be substantive, but just the visibility is important, and that that these folks are listening and that they're trying to pay attention. That's really important. All right, so we have Areva is here. Please, we're gonna keep talking, but 855-450-4784. We are standing by to capture your experiences. Call us. Chanel Porchia-Albert is here. Her extension is 721. Areva Martin is here, extension 727. Angela's with us for a few more minutes, 715, and Tomi at 720. Come on, people. You have like some serious power here, holding space for you. There you go, holding space, waiting. To really to hear.
We're here.
That's right.
Yeah, waiting.
That's right. So I just want everyone to reach out, call, tell your friend, someone who had a baby. We are doing prenatal reviews, birthing reviews, pediatric reviews up to baby's first year. Tell us about all your appointments. Remember, our stories have power, and we can't feel that sharing doesn't matter. If we put them all together, then we can go and push for change. And that's what Irth is really about. Gathering our experiences, turning it into quantitative data on the back end, and then we go push the system that consistently dismisses us, that will dismiss my story, or maybe you felt your story was dismissed. But when we put them all together, we can be so powerful.
This just don't add up.
So I really appreciate everyone kind of leaning into that and acknowledging that we can do it. We can do it. So call us. We are here, 855-450-4784 for those who can't see the letters on the phone like I can't. Or it's 855-450-IRTH. Please give us a call. We are here to capture your experiences, all to raise reviews for the Irth app. So Areva, I understand you've had a busy day. Well, first of all, before you even start, I just want to say I saw the episode of Black Love with you and your husband, a really great episode. If you haven't seen Areva's episode on the Black Love, she is the mother of an autistic child, where she's becoming a powerful advocate for autism, particularly in our community. And I just want to acknowledge that we are talking about all the ways that motherhood shows up for us and the ways that we haven't had voice and community around the nuances of our experiences. So I just want to acknowledge you. But I know you've had a busy day. Tell us why.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for acknowledging that episode of Black Love. I didn't know, when you do those interviews, it was a wide-ranging interview, several hours, and then what they decided to do was to put my husband and I in an episode that was about Black parenting. So we talked some about marriage, but we really talked about the challenges that some couples talked about getting pregnant, some of the challenges they had, and even, getting pregnant. Others talked about the birthing process. And then we talked about finding out that our son had autism. And as you see behind me, I have that. That was a cover of a magazine. And I always have that there because people, when they see me on CNN, they see me on HLN, they see me anywhere, I get so many emails from people saying, hey, I have a relative, I have a son, I have a brother that has autism. So, the power of images, right? So just by having that image there, I've been having conversations with so many people I interview on my show. Before we go live, I had a woman, a very prominent scholar, say, I'm late for the interview because I was feeding my 2 adult sons with autism. And I said, my God, I didn't know you had sons on the spectrum. She said, I never talk about it, but I saw your book and I wanted to, share that with you. So, images, incredibly powerful. Speaking of images, that's what I was doing mostly today. Today was the day where Derek Chauvin was sentenced, and I was doing live coverage for HLN and CNN. And, that trial was all about the image that we saw in that 9-minute, 29-second videotape. Well, the videotape was longer, but, the kneeling on the neck by Derek Chauvin, George Floyd, the murder that we all witnessed with our very eyes, and in that 3-week trial that was televised for the world to see. And today was not even the culmination, because there's even more that's going to happen with the other ex-police officers who are going to be tried now in March. Federal charges that are still pending against Derek Chauvin, but we're getting closer and closer to the accountability that the community, the world, has been calling for. So we would, spend all my day talking about that and trying to put into context what this 22.5 years means And for many, it's okay, but it wasn't the justice that people were expecting. And it's funny because I tweeted this out. I'm watching people on Instagram say, I got a brother, I got an uncle, I got a nephew, I got a cousin that got more time than that for a non-violent drug charge. And we know so many Black men in our community are serving, decades in prison for drug charges, other charges that are non-violent. So on one hand, 22.5 years is the longest sentence handed down in Minnesota for a police officer convicted of murder. But when you put that in a larger context of sentencing, particularly of men of color, it seems like a slap on the wrist.
It's always something. While you're saying that, I was thinking, I don't know if you all saw, I want to hear what you think. There was a meme that was going around that was saying what the police system is to Black men, the medical system is to Black women and Black mothers. And thoughts? Some people took offense. Some people took great offense. But,
I mean, when you start to think about the ways in which Black birthing bodies are criminalized when walking into hospital-based institutions, and the ways in which it occurs more frequently than not, especially when you start to factor in, insurance type and income status and perception of level of education. I definitely could see that as something where someone would feel that way. I mean, think about it. When someone walks into a space and they tell you, when you sign this form, you're giving blanket consent for somebody to do something. Ooh, you got a call. Hold on.
All right, we'll let you go take your call. Yay. And I think, thank you, Chanel. I think that, this idea that there's been, to Areva's point, no accountability, right? A Black woman dies within the medical system. What recourse does she have? Where's the accountability? Who's being quote unquote punished or at least held accountable? And that's really what, Irth is really about. It's like, how do we create public accountability? How do we create a way that we can build our consumer power to start holding these providers and hospitals accountable to us, right? And that we have power as a community. And if we use that together, that we could actually start to build accountability that says we're only going to the places that our community has vouched for, right? And if we have an option, we will go elsewhere because we are going to use our consumer power to create accountability, particularly for a system that's really built against us. Hold on, I'm getting a call. Areva, can I ask you to serve as hostess?
Yeah, I'll just keep this conversation going. I'd love to hear, Angela and Tomi, have you had, I'm coming to this call late, have either of you had negative birthing experiences yourselves or family members that have had negative birthing experiences?
I mean, I have one baby, she'll be 2 in October, and my experience was pretty amazing. Not without challenges for sure, but very amazing. And it's funny, I was just thinking about, so I needed to be induced in the end, and I had a midwife, and I was supposed to have a water birth in her birthing center. And then when it was advised that I should induce, I had the choice to go either to my emergency hospital or way out, I live in LA, way out to Whittier, where my midwife has privileges. So I opted to do that. Prior to my birth, I had to take a trip to the hospital. I ended up getting what's the rash? Pup rash. Mm-hmm. And that was something that I'm like, what is that? No one ever mentioned that I could get like a full body rash, while I'm pregnant. And so when I went to the hospital, they were acting like, you're going to give birth now. And I still had weeks to go. And I was like, wait, what is happening? And when it was time for me to give labor, I told my midwife, I don't want, because she met me there. She came after, like she got off work. And I said, I want to meet there. Like, you get there first or we get there at the same time. And we got there at the same time. And the experience was totally different. They were much more open to hearing what I had to say. They were much more kind. They were much more warm. And I would say that was the extent of, trauma that I experienced during my labor, was when I got to the hospital without my midwife. it was a whole different experience. And it wasn't lost on me that, you know, if I didn't have people in my corner, people to advocate for me, like my beautiful, you know, amazing experience could have been a nightmare for sure.
So let me ask you this, was your midwife allowed to go into the birthing room with you? You know,
yes, she delivered my baby. Yeah.
Okay, so she had privileges at this hospital, or the hospital
yes.
extended her privileges?
No, she has privileges at the hospital.
Oh, okay, great. And a lot of
at
mothers,
this particular hospital,
know that midwives, you know, I think a lot of people have the image of a midwife as someone, you know, out on a field somewhere delivering the babies, you know, in a house, and go get some towels and a bucket of hot water. You know, we want people to know that there are midwives with privileges in major hospitals across this country, and that they can go into a hospital setting and deliver a baby in the same way that a doctor or, you know, a physician's assistant or anyone else that has the privileges to deliver babies. So that's an important, I think, note to make, because I think sometimes people hear that word and they think, oh my God, you know,
right,
1900s or something, you know, on the prairie. How about you, Tomi? Did you have a negative birthing experience?
So I'm not a mom yet. I'm on a trying to conceive journey, but I have a website called Mater that offers support and community to Black moms and parents. And so I've read a lot. I've written a lot about different women's birthing traumas and experiences. I mean, I don't, you know, want to say any names because it's not my story to tell, but things like, you know, someone assuming because you look young that you're a teen mother, and putting that kind of that stigma, exactly, that stigma and bias on you. You know, where's the father? Drug test being like discussed and things like that. It got to a point on Mater where I realized that a lot of the birth stories that I was featuring, the people who were reaching out to me wanted to share the traumatic stories, and it became this this loop of trauma that I wanted to break the cycle of on the site and create space for empowered birth stories, so that we can learn lessons from what did she do to have this experience that like she felt really good about, and how, like, to Angela's point of like knowing that, you know, her midwife had privileges at this hospital, and that informing when she wanted her to show up, and like them communicating with each other. It's funny to me just how much you don't know about birth or your body until you're trying to become a mom, or you know, on a pregnancy journey. And so yeah, it's just like that storytelling and information sharing is really important on Mater So we now have stories where it's tagged empowered birth. You have like, I make sure that each piece is like, okay, so she wanted to be induced, and this is like how she navigated that, and or she didn't want to be induced, but she felt comfortable about the induction that happened because of XYZ, LNOP. So yeah, I do a lot of sharing of birth stories.
I'm so glad, Angela, you told us about having your midwife meet you at the hospital, because I'm thinking back to, I had 3 kids. My first child, doctor met me, no problem. My second child, I did not. I wasn't able to get that doctor to the hospital. And the reality is, if you get to a hospital and you're in labor and your doctor isn't there, they're going to just, you know, wheel you into a delivery room, and whoever is assigned, you know, to that labor and delivery that day is going to deliver your baby. And I remember arguing with this person, doctor, that looked so young, and I was so afraid because it wasn't the woman that I had this journey with through my pregnancy. And I didn't know that I needed to plan that better. So that's a really important message too, ladies. You know, you don't want to be arguing with a hospital because you don't have a lot of power. You're in pain. Right. And, you know, my second daughter was born before my doctor even arrived. And it was a really not as positive experience as it could have been, because I was so frustrated with this stranger that I'm trying to check. Okay, can you tell me when you graduated? How many babies have you delivered? Like, you know, right. Help me out. Help me understand.
How old are you?
You know, so, and my husband's like, and just have the baby. I'm like, no, I gotta get these questions answered.
And I think that that's a good segue into talking about doulas, because a lot of times we get questions like, what does a doula even do? But oftentimes your doula, because they have experienced so many different births, they know different hospitals, and they know, you know, what the protocol is at this hospital, and what the, you know, energy is like at that hospital. And so if you're in a situation where you can't plan, because sometimes, you know, things happen and it doesn't go according to plan, you know, your doula can help you, you know, navigate that shift, that pivot, you know, in the situation.
Yeah, and let me just add that Irth accepts reviews from doulas. In fact, doula reviews have a special icon in the app because we really want to lift them up as our community watch, right? They are our community eyes and ears for birth. And so we invite them to leave reviews so that we can lift up what they see and what we know they know as their community knowledge. So look for that doula icon in the Irth app when you're searching reviews. It's so, so important. We're still here. Come on, guys, give us a call. We are holding space for our community to call in, to leave a review, share your experiences. They have power, right? And we can't just act like what happens to us doesn't matter. We don't want to continue that narrative. We don't want to feed into that. We invite you to know that even the greatest experience has power. The one in the middle has power. The one that wasn't so great has power. But we need them all to be collected so that we can start turning this into data and using it to push for change. So please give us a call. We are here waving our phones at you for you to give us a call at 855-450-4784, 855-450-IRTH. And we're excited about this movement, this ways that we're consolidating power, even with technology and digital platforms. And I am so grateful for my sisters who showed up to support this work and what we're doing. And I'm so, so, so grateful. And I'm just floored at this whole day. So thank you all so much. I'm really excited about it. I think Angela is nursing. Are you nursing?
Not anymore. She's sleeping, but I was.
I love the way the breastfeeding just happens on the low. People like, you know, like, no, people are breastfeeding all around you. You just don't notice because that's how they do it, right? But really appreciate you, and really thank you for mentioning doulas. I love what Areva was saying around we have to demystify midwives, right? You know, we were talking earlier, like, how do we make this not a fringe culture? And I think in our community, if we see, you know, we think of people who use doulas and midwives, that's kind of part of a lifestyle. And, you know, you're a tree hugger or whatever the crunchy granola thing is. And I'm like, how do we get the lace front wig community to be like, I need a doula and a midwife? Like, you know, how do we get there so that it's just something normal for all Black women, because we all need it, and we can't have it as a fringe community because that's not going to make it accessible to all. So we still have a lot of work to do, you know? How can we normalize that for everybody?
Yeah, we got to keep having these conversations, because I've talked to so many women, and when we did the episode on the show and we talked about doulas and how do we demystify them, I had so many women say to me they did not even consider that they could afford or that they would be the kind of mother that would use a doula. So there's really this sense that doulas are for the ultra rich. You know, let's be clear, not even just for the rich, it's for white people, right? Let's just keep it real. The doulas are something that white women use, and it's a part of, you know, how they have babies. And as Black women, you know, we're expected to tough it out, right? We can't take medication. We can't do anything because we're super strong. We're resilient. So we just got to go in there and be super women and pop that baby out and get back to work and, you know, do all the things that Black women are expected to do. So we've got to keep educating our community about the value of doulas and the fact that, one, they're not as expensive in many cases as people think. I know a woman who serves as a doula, and she has lots of women who are working class women who are considered low income women, and she makes her prices affordable so that she can serve a very diverse population. And in many counties, like I live in Los Angeles County, through their I guess it's Health and Human Services or the Department of Social Work, they actually have a doula program where they pair doulas up with moms who are on Medicaid. So there are lots of resources in our community. We just have to make sure that that information gets out there and people aren't afraid to seek out the information. And, you know, we change this narrative that somehow doulas are just for the province of wealthy people and people that don't look like us.
And the fact that, you know, the misconception that a doula is a splurge, you know what I mean? Like, you know, it's an extra thing, you know, no, like your doula is there to help you have the best birth you can possibly have. It's not, you know, it's the best thing for your baby, not just, you know, a luxury for you, you know.
And a lot of single moms, if you don't have, you know, a spouse or a partner or someone, a doula is a perfect birthing mate for you and someone that can help you through the birthing experience, because giving birth is scary. I mean, it's a joy. I love my kids, but it's a scary, you know, it's a scary thing. You know, you watch these videos. Some of them, I have a niece now that's pregnant. She's like, oh, auntie, I saw this video on YouTube. I'm scared to death. And I'm like, yeah, don't watch that anymore because it will scare you to death, because, you know, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how painful it's going to be. You hear these stories of people being in labor for 36 hours. So, you know, there are lots of things out there that can make the birthing process beautiful, but also things out there that can make it incredibly scary. So we want, you know, the former rather than the latter. So we want to make sure that women, and particularly women of color, know the resources that are available to them. Chanel, did you tell us about your call?
Oh, I think she's still on it.
Oh, okay.
But I was wondering, what did support look like for you guys in your pregnancies? Because something that came up for me when you were talking about doulas being a splurge is like, maybe some people feel that way because there's this kind of conditioning around not getting support and not getting help and having to do things by yourself. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that, and what did your community and support look like during your pregnancies?
Well, I remember I gave birth at a hospital here in Los Angeles called Cedars-Sinai, and they offered some birthing classes. So my husband and I were able to go through these birthing classes. I don't know, you know, they call them Lamaze back then. I don't know what they call them now, but maybe it was when did I get a call? It was like a 6 to 8 week. Oh, I got a call. I'm sorry. So let me see if I can call them back. I'm sorry. Jump in, Andrew. I'm going to see if I can get this call.
Okay. Yeah. So you know, it's interesting, the idea of support during pregnancy, because I feel like everybody thinks they know everything once they've had a baby, or their sisters had a baby, or their daughter, you know. And so there were a lot of opinions, for sure, but I come from a very supportive family. So I had the support of my family. I had, you know, friends who were wanting to support, but I didn't quite know how to tell them to support me, because I didn't know, you know, and you know, just like when I was planning my wedding, I was like, well, nobody can do this the way I can do it, you know what I mean? So I had to, along the journey, find ways to let people support me. But it came in the way of, you know, what you know, my friends and family did. Oh, I have a call. I have a call.
Perfect. Okay. I'll jump in. All right. We in the final hour. Tomi, you're definitely next.
Yeah, I missed mine, but now I have my phone situated, so when the next one comes in, I'll be able to get it.
Okay, because it's the, you get the recording and you got to press the number to accept it, and then it will hopefully come through.
All right, great. I'll be ready.
Okay, very good, very good. So what did I miss?
I was asking, what did support look like for Angela and Areva in their pregnancies? Because Angela brought up a good point that some people might think of doulas as a splurge. And so I was like, yeah, no, that makes sense, because I think people aren't used to thinking that they get to have support, or like pregnancy is something that they can be supported through. So yeah, I was just curious about what support looked like.
Yeah.
Are you aware, Kimberly, of any health plans that actually cover doulas? Because that's something that, you know, when you think about going to your OBGYN and getting prenatal vitamins, prenatal care, is there any movement in this country to make doulas a part of that prenatal care and the birthing process?
That's a great question. In fact, there's a big announcement. I think it's the National Black Doulas Association announced a kind of a deal, a partnership with Walmart. And Walmart, as an employer, as I understand, is now going to be covering doulas for their employees. And so that was huge. And I think we need to be pushing on, holding employers accountable for it to be covered as a benefit. We need the governments to make sure, and we need the insurance companies to cover it, but also it needs to be covered at a proper amount. I know Chanel has been incredibly active with making sure that any type of doula reimbursement is actually a fair living wage, and not just demeaning the tremendous value, because everybody needs a doula, but when it's time to pay them, everybody gets quiet. So it's like, no. Let's see what's going on. Hold on, my phone is ringing again. Let's see.
Yeah. As Kimberly's getting another call, which is great. We want you to keep calling, follow the Irth app and call us at 855-450-EARTH. We are talking to women who've had birthing experiences, women who are thinking about giving birth, women who have given birth. We want to hear your stories. Tomi, I'm so glad you said with your platform, as you were getting all of these negative experiences, stories, you really wanted to break that cycle and start talking about those empowering stories, because I think it's also important that when we're having these conversations that we do share the positive birth experiences that mothers have, and we help mothers figure out how they can have too a positive birth experience. Because just as much as we want to highlight those hospitals and those practitioners that have not been welcoming to Black women, we also want to shine a light on those that have been incredibly positive. I know one of the topics I've been focused on in some of the shows I've been doing is these studies that show a correlation between the health and wellness of Black babies who are cared for by Black doctors, as well as Black patients in general, people of color being able to identify with their practitioners. And I had my 87-year-old on, I think she's 87, said she never ever thought about having a Black doctor. And no one ever suggested that to her. And when she heard the studies show that there is a correlation between that, she started thinking back of all the times she was dismissed by her doctors. And now at 87, she's on a mission to find her an African-American doctor. So, knowledge is power, right? And getting that information into the hands of people is so incredibly important.
I love that. I love that you don't know what you don't know until you know it. So that's really great that she's on that mission now, because it's true. It is. A story that I tell often is that my dad went in for a routine operation that required him to be put under, and he stopped breathing after a certain point, and people didn't notice until it was a little bit later, and they were like, oh, he stopped breathing, like we have to revive him. And when they revived him, they made a joke about it that like, oh, usually people turn blue and that's how we know, but you didn't turn blue. So you didn't turn blue. And it was like, you are medically, like you literally do not know how to see trauma in Black people. Like that is just a very literal story, anecdote that shows this larger problem is that they don't know how to see us as people, as patients. And so I share that story because I now know that there's a younger doctor who is making this compendium of what does trauma look like on Black and brown skin, because the medical institution does not have that. And so I think there's like a level of care and understanding when you have a doctor who looks like you, that just should be something that everyone experiences. But unfortunately, we have to work a little bit harder to get that.
Yeah. Did anyone see the new Kevin Hart movie Fatherhood?
Oh no, but it's on my list.
Even though it's about fatherhood, there is a interesting scene at the beginning where Kevin Hart's wife, and I won't tell you the whole movie, but his wife dies suddenly right after giving birth. And she has what I think is a pulmonary embolism. Stands up out the bed to go see her newly born baby, and she drops to the floor.
Okay.
And after repeated efforts to revive her, she passes away, and then the movie goes on. I mean, it's like in the first 10 minutes of the movie. But it reminded me of Serena Williams and the story that she tells about being in the hospital, having symptoms, having those symptoms dismissed, and then learning that she too had a PE, that she had a pulmonary embolism. And one of the things that we know with respect to Black women, and whether you're pregnant or not, that there's this myth that Black women can, withstand so much pain, and that our stories and our telling of pain to doctors is often ignored and dismissed. And as I'm watching that movie, I'm just thinking, okay, I know you're not going to go into this because the movie is about Kevin Hart and raising this kid, but I was just so curious about, wow, this is a young woman. She just had birth. She's happy. She's going to see her baby. She stands up. She drops dead. Like, what was going on there? And I don't even think that the creators of the movie understand that there was like a subplot in the movie about Black women giving birth.
Yeah, I think everybody was kind of waiting to see, like, is this serious? Is this going to be touched on? Is this like? Yeah. It was interesting. I haven't seen it yet. Thanks for that update, Areva. I think, yeah, that's really interesting. And we know that, I mean, most of the reasons why we die is because of complications from C-sections, right? So how we birth is impacting whether, those post-birth complications that often disproportionately lead to our death. And that's just not okay. It's just too much. So interesting around this dismissive of the pain, because actually there was quote unquote research and science that some white man did that proved that we didn't respond to pain the same way. So when we think about the ways that systemic racism seeps in, it actually becomes part of the quote unquote evidence that they're using as acting as if that's actually fact, but it became accepted because of racist research. And so we're really battling on all fronts on this one. It's a deep-rooted history that's going to take a lot of work to undo. So, I'm grateful for all you all here to help us with at least one digital platform as we kind of think about our futures and sharing our experiences. I'm excited about the power that we have, and that's really digging into that. So, yeah. So that we can actually change the story. But they're talking about it in Kevin Hart movies. Is that a good thing or not?
Yeah, I was thinking we need to have like a whole discussion group about the first 10 minutes of the movie. I know they want to talk about Kevin being a good dad, but I'm sitting here thinking there's a much bigger story here that was glossed over, probably because there wasn't a Black woman at the table when they were, doing the read on the movie. They just just kill the wife off so Kevin can be the dad. And they needed a convenient way for her to die at the beginning. But I was like, oh my God, this is like, unfortunately, the story, as you said, Kimberly, of too many Black mothers. She had a C-section. So it showed her having this C-section in the movie. And, this otherwise healthy young woman, first birth, stands up dead.
And, it's like, and this was the part that's there's so many parts that are disturbing. But remember, they told us that hospitals were safe, that midwives were not safe, but actually not so much for us. And so, like the stories that we're told about, where we should birth, how we should birth, who should be there, who should not be there, have unfortunately disproportionately only caused more harm to Black birthing bodies, right, than actually giving us better outcomes. And so we really have to start questioning. We really have to start doing our research, educating ourselves, remembering that we had a tradition, right, that was rooted in our culture, in our community, and the people who birthed our grandmothers and great grandmothers before a white doctor, a male doctor, decided to show up at all to the party. And how do we, really start to honor that and reclaim that? I feel like people are digging back. Like, apparently bone marrow is real expensive, right? So there's this whole movement where everything that was old that our grandmothers did has now become expensive. So I'm like, okay, cool. Let's bring back the midwives because they were around too. And we really, really need them. We really do need them.
Kimberly, can you help viewers understand what kind of training midwives have? And, somebody that might be reluctant, thinking, okay, a midwife doesn't have the same training and skills as a medical doctor. Help us understand how a midwife is more than capable and competent to deliver a baby.
Yeah, and I'm going to toss that to Chanel, who would be the best person to educate on that, because I want to make sure we get it from the the most expert person on this panel. So Chanel.
Thanks, Kimberly. So yeah, I mean, midwives come with, all of the education, all of the tools that they need to be able to support families in a very affirming way. I'm a mom of 6. I've had, let's see, out of all of my children, I have had 4 of them at home. And one, I have identical twin daughters that were born via cesarean due to preeclampsia. And midwives for me are the gatekeepers to really being able to center the birthing experience in a way where your bodily autonomy is centered. You feel the support that's necessary. A lot of it is you don't even have to express because they're in tune with what's happening right at that particular moment. But they come with all of their tools. They're coming with suturing kits. They're coming with oxygen. They're coming with, their skills, their years of training. Some of them are certified nurse midwives, which means that they went to nursing school and then went on to get a master's in midwifery. Some of them are direct entry midwives, whereas, maybe they have a degree and they decide to go into the CPM route. And, a certified professional midwife where you're going to a MEEC accredited midwifery school, and getting, training there. Sometimes it's 2 to 3 years worth of training, sometimes more, depending on how you want to practice. And being able to support the communities that they're in. But, we're in a shortage of midwives. We need more midwives. We need the midwives who are there, who are, currently going through their practices to be supported in ways that are, uplifting and affirming. In some states, CPMs are still outlawed. So like, for instance, in New York State, where we could definitely need some extra midwives. If you want a, out of hospital birth, your options become very limited because we don't have the infrastructure to be able to support it.
And I was so disappointed that, I think of New York as a progressive state in many ways, I like to think that. And when I realized that, wait, we don't even, many midwives are so criminalized here. I was like, this is crazy. This is so crazy. Chanel, I wanted to hear how your call was. Can you share a little bit with us?
Yes. So just spoke to a mom who is currently 37 weeks and shared her story of her prenatal care and just, the ways in which, these clinics need to be held accountable for the ways in which they don't provide information. So, they went to one initial clinic where they were initially seeing a Black midwife and they believe, they were given that Black midwife because they're a person of color in an all-white practice, right? It's an all-white practice. Come to find out, why, as she was getting her care, she realized, she's trying to build this bonding relationship with this midwife. And then the midwife was like, oh no, I'm not going to be there. I'm not the one that's going to be delivering your baby. It'll be one of the doctors, like any of the doctors. And so she's like, what do you mean? I thought that, you were the one that's going to deliver my baby. She's like, no, I don't deliver. No, that's not me. It's only the doctors who do that. And so realized that she had to see all of the other physicians, and in doing so came upon a physician that was terrible, was completely terrible, decided to advocate for herself, moved out of that practice. And when she did, she asked for a referral. She said, listen, I don't like the care that I'm getting here, and I think that you all need to be more transparent about the ways in which you tell people how you're providing services. And they didn't want to give her a referral. They used some kind of backdoor method to contact her on her private phone and not from the doctor's office phone. Then the midwife, who she was no longer in her care anymore, called her on the phone, trying to convince her to stay in that practice that she was in. And she was just like, I don't believe, why are you calling me? I'm not in you're not my provider anymore. Why are you calling me on my phone? This is inappropriate. So they finally, leave her alone. She goes to another provider who, then, proceeds to be, it's an all-white practice. It's a huge practice that's in Maryland, which has multiple different offices, and goes on to say that the provider was very condescending, lied multiple times about the services. She said she had a doula, She, they told her like, oh, you can't have a doula in care. She called the hospital. They told her you can't have a doula. And she's like, no, I called the hospital. And he's like, no, we get a bulletin every day. And the hospital's like, no, we don't give out any bulletins to medical providers in regards to that or anything like that. And so was lying to her multiple times. Upon giving her a vaginal exam, was very rough. And, she said like, can you stop? This doesn't feel good. He does. Then, she decides that she wants to no longer be in that practice, and is being harassed by them as well, right? Saying, oh, we want you to stay in the practice. They try to give her another physician of color. She's like, no, all of, this whole practice is basically trash. And you're not treating people, right? You're not treating people with dignity and respect. And you think that because of the fact, she said it was multiple microaggressions. And again, she said it was an all white male practice, except for one Black female doctor. And that even still wasn't adequate enough. So she, finally transferred out of that care and was able to find another provider, some clinicians that happen to be a Black practice. And she, she's like, I'm really grateful for being able to find them. She's like, I had to beg to get into their practice because I'm so far along in my pregnancy, which oftentimes happens, right? Because you get so close to, your delivery date, your estimated due date, and you're like, I don't like this care, but where do I go? And you're not given any options. And then you have to try to like scramble to find something, and then once you do, try to get admitted into that practice, So yeah, she, luckily she was able to do that.
I'm so like, this whole thing is exhausting. Right. I mean, I'm exhausted listening to what this person went through trying to get respectful care. And I'm so glad you were able to capture her experience so that we can use that to help others. Deeply concerning. One of the things that was just screaming out for me, Chanel, we talk about this all the time, is like, we have to become real consumers about our physicians early on. I tell people, I think we would talk about this as well. You got to interview them like your hairdresser. Okay. Right. Like, go through the scrutiny and find out early on, because the minute you ask these questions early on, interview them. If something's not right, that they're not giving you those answers, move on early, and so really wanting folks to lean into their consumer power. As we're building Earth, we want that to be part of your tools, that you look and search to see what your community says. But we have to, what they say, your doctor is not your dictator, right? And we have to really take a very consumerist approach to this, to our healthcare system, which is a consumerist healthcare system. And we need to use that to our advantage. But to help people really ask those questions early on, because the longer you wait, it is going to be a challenge. And then, you're going from here to there, trying to get respectful care.
Right. It becomes like this, I mean, I liken it in some ways to, when you're trying to look for a college to go to, or, you're going through you're trying to sift through all this information, you become overwhelmed. And, oftentimes you don't even know the right questions to ask. You know what I mean? Like, so for instance, like, this was a group practice, and, she was like, it would have been nice to know that, if I'm seeing a midwife ahead of time, that that's not who's going to deliver my child. Like, so what she really, really wanted was just a level of transparency, you know what I mean? So that she can make an informed decision. And not have to do all this advocacy work, and go through all these hoops to find her care.
And the other thing, Chanel, that concerns me, because we see this co-opting of the movement that you are trying to build and Jennie Joseph's trying to build, right? So we see hospitals calling something a birthing center when we know that the birthing center is just hospital light, right?
Right.
Now medical practices perhaps having a midwife who actually is almost tokenized, it sounded like,
right?
To act as if they're trying to offer you something that they really aren't. It's just smoke and mirrors. And I'm very concerned about the ways that the establishment will continue to try to co-opt the models that are being built from the community up, really for commercial gain. Not that they have any intent of being a model of that type of care or living it out in its intention and purpose, but because so they can say that they're they're selling you something fancy. I want to just remind people to call. We're in our last 10 minutes of the Earth-a-thon. I have been here for 8 hours, puffing my sleeves and asking people to call in. We are here with Areva Martin, Chanel Porchia-Albert, Tomi Akitunde, Angela Lewis. We are about to bring in the rest of the Earth team that's been working backstage for us to have this experience. Please call in 855-450-IRTH, 855-450-4784. We need your experiences. They matter. We are here holding space for our community because we want to hear from you. We have the extensions up. Areva's at 727, Tomi's at 720, Chanel's at 721. Angela's still on the call, but we are here. And please know that whatever happened to you, good, bad, it matters. And we need to hear it because that's how we inform each other. That's how we help protect each other. And this is how we find our way to something better. But without your experiences, without us sharing, without us valuing ourselves enough to say what happened to me is important enough for me to tell my community, yay, Tomi's got a call, then we really are not going to be able to really reach the full power to push this. And so I am so grateful for everybody for joining me today for the Earth-a-thon, the first telethon. I felt like everybody involved producing this doesn't know what a telethon is. I think I'm the only one.
No, I know what a telethon is. I was trying to explain this to my husband. He was like, "A what?" I was like,
"You remember the telethon, right?"
But I was confused. I think I'm just now figuring out what we were doing. So it's a very creative concept, but I think it caught me a little off guard. I wasn't quite sure what to expect. How are people getting the number, Kimberly? How are they getting the number?
Well, we've been blasting it out on social media, asking everyone who has come today to also share it on social media. We were in Black Enterprise magazine, BET put it out. We've been really trying to spread the word. So always open. This is our first time. Next time we'll do it again and really think through how we can make sure. But, I do think that it's time that we bring creativity and innovation to the space, and we have to try new things, right?
I think it's brilliant. I was just curious about how people are like, this isn't a close, like a Zoom, right? So people are there people, this is streaming. That's what I guess I'm not clear.
Exactly. So we're live streaming to Facebook. We are live streaming to Twitter. We are live streaming to YouTube right now. So people can watch on all those platforms. We see some folks from Facebook leaving comments here. Yes. So many people commenting to the things that Chanel was saying from the mom. And we're grateful for everyone who's been tuning in, checking out. We are here to raise reviews. If you're so inclined, please donate to Earth. We are a nonprofit technology and media company really trying to eradicate racism and bias in maternity and infant care, and we're supported by grants. We're grateful to the California Healthcare Foundation, the Grove Foundation, and the Tara Health Foundation, but always grateful for donations from our supporters as we try to make sure that we can continue to do this work. And we're excited. We're growing, we're young, we're figuring it out. We're trying to try new things and be here for the community. I think we're at a point where we have to push all the buttons, right? We got to push the technology button and the policy buttons and the legislative buttons and the online, like all the buttons, right? So I'm real excited about that. Chanel, tell us what's new at Ancient Song.
Let's see what's new. Well, we are starting some live classes again. So we're starting some live classes and really looking forward to being in person with folks and being able to share space. Not large, not super huge, keeping it intimate, but, happy to be being able to be in a community more. We have Decolonized Birth coming up in September, which we didn't have it last year because of the pandemic, but looking forward to really being able to share that with everyone. And, Decolonized Birth Conference is a space for advocates and researchers and policymakers and everyone in between, grandparents and parents, to really be able to show what's going on in your community. How are we supporting one another? What are the tools that we need in order to be able to do that in an effective way? And, like I say, to always center hope, I think that it's important for us to, as much as we talk about the stories of what, Black women dying, pregnant people dying in childbirth, we really need to uplift the motivation and the stories of hope and goodness. And this is what I really like about the Earth app too, is because you're not just collecting the stories that are, traumatic. You're also conducting, the joy-filled stories to be able to show that, you know what I mean? Like, what does good care look like? Well, here's an example of what it looks like, and seeing it in real time. So that's a beautiful thing.
And for us to be able to amplify those who are treating us well, right? Like, if someone's getting great Earth reviews, we need to learn about that. What's going on there? Could that be replicated? Are there lessons learned for those who are lagging? And so we want it to be helpful and instructive, but that we're leveraging our consumer power to push this industry for change. I shared earlier that we just launched our first hospital pilot in Detroit. So I'm super excited about now we are really starting to use Earth data to affect systems change, right? Within hospitals, for them to begin to work. So we're excited about our partnership there with Ascension, and that we have to keep pushing these levers. I want to quickly ask my Earth team, who's been working behind the scenes, to join us for the last 5 minutes of the Earthathon, so I can say thank you to all the faces. These are the people who helped me and deal with my craziness, poor Nikki, and really help make sure that we keep things going and we have Kara, who's our social media coordinator. Yara, who's here for the summer from Spelman as our intern, Nikki Valdez, who's our project coordinator and is the glue that holds this whole project together, trust me. And so I'm grateful that everyone has come out to support Earth. We are here. This is your last 3 minutes for us to really lean in to these experiences. And for everyone who's just been here all day. We had such an amazing day. We started with Angela Aina from Black Mamas Matter, Latham Thomas from Mama Glow, Charles Johnson from For Kira for Moms, and Bruce McIntyre came, Denise Bowles, Kidada Green from Black Mothers Breastfeeding Association. We had Aaron, who lost his wife, Janaea, just December 2020. He came by to really share his story and what he's been going through as a father. Erica Chidi from Loom, Whitney Robinson from the Renee, Natalie Walton from Expectful. We talked about mindfulness. Jennie Joseph from Common Sense Childbirth, Nicole's sister midwife, Deggins, Nana, and Marcia from Fourth Phase Box. We had Rachel Nix from Birth Queen, and of course Angela Lewis is still with us. We have Chanel Porchia-Albert from Asian Song Doula. We have Dr. Ifeanyi Asiodu, who's been behind the scenes on backup. So I thank you. She's one of our Earth advisors and has always come through and showed up for us. I'm very grateful. We had an amazing video from Christy Turlington Burns and Every Mother Counts and their project. Also from Anna Malika Tubbs, who wrote that amazing book, The Three Mothers, and Coach Jesse, who's always helping me try to get my detox life right. So it's been a fabulous day. I could not be more grateful to be in the company of my sisters and my people who have showed up to really say we are here to support. I just am so grateful. I'm not going to cry again because Jennie Joseph made me cry already. I'm already looking worn out from it. So I just wanted to ask Areva to, what else? I mean, what's next as you see it? Like what needs to be done?
I just think, first of all, Kimberly, congratulations. That list you just rattled off, an impressive list in any day, but definitely in a day where people are so busy and so much is going on, that you were able to assemble that kind of talent and bring those women together to celebrate the birthing process and to share their stories and to be a vehicle through which other women can share their stories. So let's give Kimberly a big round of applause because she's the brainchild behind all of this. She's the visionary leader, and without visionary leaders, there's not change. So first of all, we want to acknowledge you, Kimberly. But in terms of what's next, like I just think in this moment, everything's on the table and everything's possible. So everything that we want for our community, now's the time to ask for it, and now's the time to go get it. Because I don't think we should leave anything on the table. Everything is up for reexamination. Everything is up for us, to challenge every system that we've been told works for us. We should be asking how. Show us the proof, show us the evidence. And if we don't think a system is working for us, we need to demand that that system changes and that we, Black women, Black people, the Black community, that we are at every table, we're making decisions at the highest level, and we are getting what our community has always deserved, and we continue to deserve. So that includes reparations, that includes, universal health care, That
Paid
includes
leave.
access to education, food, housing, everything that we deserve, we should be getting in this moment.
I love it. Thank you so much, Areva. Thank you for being here. Chanel, what does hope look like for you right now in this moment?
Hope looks like the ability to be able to advocate for yourself in a way that feels good, centering your bodily autonomy, caring for your children in a loving and affirming way where you don't have to worry about them and they can just be. And you can be as a parent, right? Where, you know, you're not consistently in this tailgate of a fight to just coexist, where our humanity is coexisting with others in a really shared and valued way, where we're respecting one another. You know, even within the realm of not necessarily agreeing with every ideal, because there's many different ways in which to be able to approach situations, but understanding that, you know, this is hope. You know, having this platform is hope. You know, the work that folks are doing every single day, that's the hope. You know, that is where we're building those foundations right now for future generations and really shifting the ways in which, you know, people are able to access care, be able to, you know, talk about that in real time. I mean, to have something just as amazing as this, that's by a Black woman. Okay, let's come on now, right? That's by a Black woman. And, you know, and it's technology, right? Think about it. You know, when do we have tech that's specifically for us, you know, that where we're seen, you know what I mean? And it feels good. And we have like real folks who are on the front lines, who are doing the work, who, you know, are able to tap in and share their knowledge and their resources with folks on a daily basis. So yeah, I give thanks. This is hope right here in the making and happening. So
I agree with that. Thank you so much. I have just been so honored by the day. At Irth, we often say we are our sister's keeper, and I take that very seriously in terms of building a digital platform where Black and brown women and birthing people can find reviews, leave reviews, see what their community says about them, says about a provider. On the back end, we go put our stories together where we have power, and then we go push for change for a system that has been disproportionately dismissing us, ignoring us, and we are saying no more. No more. And we are going to use all the tools, all the things, including our ancestral knowledge, including the traditions that are in our community, including digital platforms, including influencers, all the things to bring justice to our birthing experience. And so I am just honored and grateful for everyone who has joined us today. I'm grateful to my Irth team that has been working so hard this week. We have not slept, but I am grateful for the late nights and all of us just really trying to make this happen, to pull this together. We are on a mission to birth freedom, to birth justice, to birth equity. And I am grateful for all of you for being on this journey with us. And we'll see you at the next Earthathon. You know, we'll get it, we'll regroup, get it better, and we'll be back. But we will always be here holding space for our community and holding space for our story. So thank you all for joining us for Earthathon Birthing Freedom, our first national telethon for birth equity. Thank you. Don't forget, go to earthapp.com too and learn more about what we're doing. Thanks, Chanel. Thanks, Areva. I appreciate everyone. Angela and Tomi are still working. Have a great night. It's been a wonderful day.